boast the most ghosts. Come on in. We've been expecting you. Take a look around. You might see someone that you recognize. Do you hear those voices? That's just the Reverend Dr. Death and La Arena. They're so happy to see you. Sit back and relax. Make yourself at home. Your new home. And remember, when you're in Death Holler, listener discretion is always advised. We hope you enjoy the show.
Well, how's things been going?
We went to look at holiday lights yesterday. And when I say holiday lights, I mean Halloween holiday lights.
Yeah, you got to be specific. This time of year, a lot of people jump the gun and put friggin' Christmas stuff out. So
yeah, we did not see that. We saw some badass houses, though. They were inspirational, man.
I'm going to go on the record and say I like my image better for you guys' show.
Oh, my God.
The image I made was badass.
It was cool. Yeah, you had that weird, creepy guy vomiting scary stuff out of his mouth.
He was hollering.
He was hollering.
It was.
Well, that's Death Manor right there is what you see. And that's where we welcome all the guests who come to visit Death Holler.
It'd be cool to put some animation onto it.
It's like you can, and it's like Hotel California because you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's kind of like Oculus. I mean, you think that you've left, but you're still in the house.
Oh, that's just a throwback to when we did Oculus. I forget which episode, but go check us out. It was a good episode. That was a fun movie to watch. Reverend, what have you been up to?
Watching a shit ton of movies for spooky season. New ones, actually, in the theater. When we covered Barbarian, like I mentioned on that I gave it a little bit lower rating than you all did, because of the fact that I'd watched other movies around the time and I was kind of trying to, compare them and all that. So I watched Pearl, which is a sequel to X.
I have not seen. Have you seen, babe?
X sucked. Other than titties, it's not really. It was a dud. I didn't think it was very amazing.
I liked it, but there's a lot of people that, I mean, it was way overhyped. Pearl is a completely different movie, though. It's set in like 1918, rural Texas. It's more like it's kind of set up more like Psycho. You're seeing, the craziness in Pearl, like as it develops, and before she became the character that you watched in X, the old lady in that one. Has a lot of callbacks to some older films, and it's actually filmed in a style that's like more like, the way that they used to do films, like the big extravagant things they did back in like the 40s and 50s, where the colors were like super bright and saturated, and almost like, I don't think it has technically a musical number, although it does have like some dance routines and all that, so it does even play into that sort of thing. But it's more like just a psychological piece. You're following, the character as she just, steadily goes crazier and crazier as she's trying to become famous, basically. And I would rate it about a 4.5 for me. I mean, I just like the angle that he went with on that one. It's there's like a point in the movie toward the end where Mia Goth has like almost a 10-minute monologue. In any other movie, that seems like that would be overkill and it would just bore you to tears. But the way that she delivers it and the meaning behind what she's saying is just, I mean, in the circumstances, it's just, I mean, it's amazing that, I mean, that it keeps you entertained the entire time that she's like going through this whole thing. So
I have not heard of any of these movies, X or Pearl. I mean, I saw a movie poster when I dropped the kids off at the theater the other day, but
X is basically Pearl is a prequel to X.
Yeah. It's so X is like these people are filming a porno and it's set up like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. In fact, it's aping a lot of that stuff in that movie. And they're going and they rent this cabin that's beside these two old folks or whatever to film their porno. And as soon as they get there, they realize there's something because the old guy's like really creepy and weird. It's even worse when Mia Goth's character in that one, which she's a completely different character, but when she meets the old lady in the house, also played by Mia Goth, like the old lady's even creepier than old dude. Like she's got this weird fetish about Mia Goth's character, and it's all about the fact that she realizes that she's got like star potential, and that's something that she always wanted. And like whenever you go to watch Pearl, you actually see like why she's so obsessed with like fame and like, becoming famous, because basically, I mean, it's not really ruining anything because it's in X. That way she had her shot, but she missed it. Like she just didn't have the stuff to be, the famous person she wanted to be.
Okay, wait. So did Mia Goth play the old lady in the prequel?
No, she played the potential
in
porn
X.
star.
But
X?
yeah, she played the younger version of her in the prequel. Yes,
Which would make sense in X why she was obsessed with her, because she saw herself.
Yeah,
basically, that's kind of cool.
In all ways, like she literally saw herself.
Wow. Okay, so wait a second. So these old people are currently in the house while they are filming a porno there?
There's a barn. There's like a secondary house on the property.
Okay. I was
And
like,
Yeah, it's like a little cabin and stuff, and that's where, and it sets it up in Pearl why that house is there. It's actually, it's the place where Pearl actually spent most of her time, herself, like before, she moved into the main house. So I mean, it's I don't know, it sets up the little side house that the other people are filming in later. So
Pearl is such an old lady's name.
well, I mean, it's the thing that I find interesting about it is the fact it's set in 1918. It's set during the right as the biggest part of the Spanish flu. And they work in, I mean, you could roll your eyes at this and I can understand it, but they roll in a lot of like the way that they responded back in that time period with the way people responded to COVID, basically. And it's eerily similar in certain ways. Like, people are afraid to go to, shopping and all that. They use masks to cover up their faces, which they did. I mean, that's documented. They did that in 1918. That's where they got the idea to try to do that now. Whether that succeeded or not, that's up to you. But it's kind of interesting that he took that different time period and kind of like, reworked it for an audience that understands what, kind of what that those people went through to a certain extent. So,
yeah, pretty cool.
Smile came out very recently. That movie, I want to give it a 5, but I don't know if it's got rewatchability. So I'm going to give it a 4.8. To me,
Wow.
It's got the scares. It's got and they're not just jump scares. There's a lot in it, though. There is a lot of jump scares, but it has a lot of tension building between the jump scares. It's one of the few movies I have seen in recent years outside of Hereditary that actually affected me in any way, shape, or form.
Wow.
So,
and it looks kind of gory, too, so it looks right up my alley.
I know what the kids are going to see this weekend.
What?
Smile.
Yeah. I heard, I've been hearing nothing but good things about it. And I'll tell you what, when I was watching the, previews, I'm like, it looks scary, but it looks like one of those, you never know with the previews now if you're getting all of the scares in the preview. And I had assumed.
There are some that are kind of ruined by the preview. But I'll say this, even with that, they ramped the tension up enough to where even when you see some of those particular scares happening, they still, that one of them got me. That's clearly in the preview. And I was waiting for it to happen, and when it did, it's just, it was like, okay, it still worked, even though I knew it was coming.
Yeah, I feel like the previews kind of covered up some of the stuff a little bit. So in the movie, you actually got to see what happened versus it was going to happen.
Yeah, and I don't want to give anything away, but it does combine some themes from some movies that have already been out there. That's the biggest complaint I've heard from the people that didn't like it. They were like, "Oh, it's just like these 3 movies combined," and it does have that. But there's nothing wrong with taking concepts that are already out there, reworking them into something that's actually scary and letting it roll.
Yeah. Before you move on to the next movie, Halloween Ends. That's out today.
Yes.
We going to see that?
Hell no.
No? Everyone's saying it was way better than...
Halloween was supposed to end a good 10 years ago. What are we doing? Dude.
Beating a dead horse is what we're doing.
Yeah, I'm not paying for that.
I'm going to watch it for this podcast, but I don't know what to even think about it because the things I've heard, first of all, they said that it's going to outright piss off at least half the audience, if not
Oh
more. So that right
shit.
there is whatever. But then somebody said, I read just something in passing. I've been trying to avoid spoilers on it, but somebody had this comparison to make, and I'm not going to say it on here to spoil it for anybody else that might want to watch it. But they compared it to, they said the ending reminded them of another movie. And and the movie that they listed is so off the wall compared to what that series is that I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because I don't see how the two of them even link together, let alone say that the ending is like that other movie. So
Let me reiterate this.
I mean, I'll
I'm
tell
going
you.
to watch it. I'm not going to pay to watch it.
Well, here's the thing. I heard that it's on Peacock anyways. If somebody's actually already paying to stream on Peacock, it's on there. So you can watch it that way.
With a good email, and I'm pretty sure Death Holler has not signed up for a week of free
has not
Peacock.
Signed up for it, yes. If you want to get a free trial and try it that way, then there you go.
Yeah, we could stream it for free.
How was the new Hellraiser movie? Did you watch it yet?
I did watch it. I actually enjoyed it. I'm going to say that to me, it was around like a 3.7, 3.8 out of 5. I say that because the first third of it was boring to me. I mean,
I can't.
The thing is that it does have a scene early on, so it's not completely devoid of action. Just so you know, it's not a slowest of burns.
Okay.
It does have a scene where somebody's getting like the chains coming out of the the lament configuration or whatever, or the puzzle box, and it does show something like that. But then it goes from that, and it follows this one character who is you find out she's like in drug rehab. She's been trying to, she's living with her brother and she's kind of hooked up with this guy who it seems like he's going to like drive her back to doing, all the stuff that got her into rehab to begin with. And it does so happen that whenever she's following this guy, he takes her to a place where the puzzle box is at, and then that starts the whole process. So the first third of the movie, you're sitting there watching this character, and her drama that she has with her friends, trying to set up these relationships so that later, whenever they start getting picked off one by one, you are supposed to care about them. I just like the main actress is kind of flat. I didn't get anything from her. So like I could care less about any of her, what she had to do. And then like her brother was interesting, but then that's kind of the setup for the movie. He's one of the ones that gets picked off, so then you gotta then you're left with her again, so you're kind of like, okay, I don't and until she opens the puzzle box and then the shit starts happening about the last half of the movie, then it gets, it goes, to me, it's the third best in the series, period. You got part 1 the best, part 2 really good, Hellbound Heart, and then you got this one, because this beats all of those shitty sequels that they came out with later on in the series. Not saying that much, because they are some pretty shitty sequels out there for it, but it's better than a lot of those.
Okay. So probably worth the watch then. I haven't seen 2 and 3. Well, excuse me, 2 in this one.
Oh, look at that. We have the movie already.
Okay,
I'll just put it this way. If you start getting bored with the beginning part of the movie, skip forward and then until you start seeing the Hell Priest pop up, and that's the new Pinhead, the androgynous Pinhead, and then go from there. So
look, just because I find something to be slow doesn't mean that other people don't want to see that. So I don't think I'm allowed to do that. I just have to suffer through it if I think, because that's my fault if I'm suffering through it.
I'm just telling you that it got to me. Like, I was trying, now granted, I was trying to watch it after I came home from work. I had to do it over the course of a couple of nights, but I was falling asleep during that first part. Like, it was just, I was like, I saw the potential there with the little things that they showed here and there, but I was just like, come on, like I need something to start, sometime soon.
Oh dear God.
Have you ever watched Funhouse?
Oh, no. That sounds familiar. What year?
It is a really old, like 1980s Tobe Hooper film. Like, it was one of the first films he did after doing Chainsaw.
What's the plot?
So they start out, and it's got this really cheesy scene at the beginning where it's imitating both Psycho and the original Halloween, in the sense that you're following somebody, you're in their point of view as they're going through this child's room, and they're picking through like they're looking at different things in the room, and they eventually choose like a knife that's hanging on the wall, and they put on like a mask, and they're going down the hallway. They get to the end of to where somebody's taking a shower. It turns out it's the sister of the person who's doing all this, and they act like they're going to stab her or whatever. Well, it's all this like setup for nothing, because like it's it's her brother, and it's like a fake knife and whatever. So they're just paying homage that way. But the gist of it is that she's sneaking out, or she's going out with her friends to this. She says that it's something else entirely, because her parents don't want her to go to this local carnival, because they heard that like in some other like part of the state, and this is set in Texas, I believe, that there was some people that died in association with this carnival, so they don't want her around it. But her and her friends sneak off and go to it anyways. And it's really weird, because he spends a lot of the movie like in the middle, like just showing them go to random things in this weird ass carnival. Has nothing to do with the plot whatsoever. Just them going, they see like this fortune teller. They go to like this, basically say a peep show. I don't know what carnival has peep show, but this one did. And
I would say the good
they
ones.
see like,
Wow.
they see a, like this, these mutated freaks or whatever. And that does have some bearing on the story, but they see that. And then one of them gets this wild idea. It's like, hey, some friends of mine, kind of snuck into the fun house that, amongst one of the last rides of the night. And then they just stayed there, and kind of partied or whatever. So that's what they do, hence the name. But what happens is they kind of, they see a murder take place beneath them while they're in the fun house, and they get caught. And then it's the people, the carnies that are running it. Then they don't want, they've already had some, obviously some bad publicity because of some deaths that happened earlier, and they even admit that. So they go through and basically are trying to kill these kids that stayed in the fun house at night. It's the best thing about it is that one of the people in the movie that has like this Frankenstein mask on through the majority of the first half while they're at the carnival, when he pulls it off, and what plays into the mutated freaks thing is he's like this inbred mutated freak, like son of the main carny. And he's got, and the makeup work they did on him is actually pretty decent. He's got this ghastly, like albino, split face type thing. And he's the one that goes around doing most of the kills in the movie.
Yeah.
Sounds really familiar.
They did a really, really good job. Let me see if I can get a picture enough to show the hubs. There you
go. Ooh, I've seen that.
1981.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this gem, but it didn't really hold up to the test of time. But you've had to have seen it. Rawhead Rex.
Actually, that's one that I've never sat down and watched. I know of it, and I know that it's like it. And I know the story behind it, and it's another Clive Barker thing. Going back to our mention of Hellraiser, but yeah, it's.
Oh, is that his movie?
That's based on one of his stories. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that when I was a kid, dude, that was such a good movie. And then I was an adult and I watched it, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, that's what I've heard about it. That like if you like the people who have nostalgia for it, when they go back and watch it, they can't really defend it.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. But I remember when I was a kid, it was such a good scary movie. The monster, they did a good job with the monster. I'll give them that. But yeah, it's bad.
That's kind of like this movie. I mean, that monster, like those effects, like whenever that mask comes off of that person, I just looked at my wife. I was like, oh shit, they actually spent some money on this thing. That looks pretty good,
Shoe doggy.
But yeah, the movie itself, it's just kind of like a slow slasher. And there's better ones that came shortly thereafter, including Friday the 13th and all that. That's the reason it kind of got buried. I know why it's kind of got some nostalgia for people, but it's not amongst the best of that type.
Your wife watches all these movies with you. Does she actually watch them, or is she like me and she falls asleep?
No, she does the thing where she's like kind of got like an iPad or something off to the side. And
Okay.
like she looks up on occasion or whatever, you know, if something really interests her, she'll stay with it. But otherwise she's just checking back and forth. I think her comment at the end of it, and I can't really say anything to the contrary of it, is that it just has a kind of a dumb ending. Because they didn't really like the main character, the main actress, the final girl, like she just kind of walks out. I mean, like everybody else has like, you know, that she knows has been killed. She finds her way out of there. The carnies are looking at her covered in blood and she's just freaked out of her mind. And they're like, whatever, what the fuck? We're just going to go back to doing our job here at the carnival. And she's just staggering among the crowd. And that's how it ends. It's just okay.
That's actually pretty believable.
Actually, I can believe it too. It's it's still
maybe her walking is unbelievable, but them saying, "I gotta get shit. I gotta go back to work.
I gotta get back to my carny job over here."
I could see that.
Does the lady reverend listen to the podcast?
I don't think so. No.
Okay, I don't know what she thinks about the hobby. I don't know if she'd ever like go on it. Like, I don't know anything about the lady reverend. So, the lady Mrs. Death.
Yeah, I don't know. I was not impressed by that ending. She was just kind of like, is that it? Is that how the movie's going to end? Because I mean, that freak that you saw the picture of, that he does eventually die, but it's just kind of like, okay. I mean, you know, there's no like end scene where like any cops pull up, or even like the girl's parents, like she's been gone all night, you know, which she did tell them that she's going to stay at a friend's house. They don't come looking for her.
Yeah.
And the brother knows she's there and they've got the brother with him, but they give the kind of bullshit statement that whenever he gets scared by the carnies, when he's trying to find his sister, that he falls into a fever out of nowhere and he can't speak for some reason. He's like kind of like in this feverish like sleep or something. So it's like, okay, I guess that's one way to ride out the one way that cops could have been involved.
That's a stretch.
I think parents know now that whenever we say we're spending the night at a friend's house, we are lying in a field somewhere, probably half dying from alcohol poisoning or some other substance.
Yeah, that scene with the brother is just so dumb. It's like, I mean, they're sitting there and there's this weird carny that's like telling them all this stuff. It's like, yeah, we found a little guy here and he's sitting there like rubbing this kid's head with like a cloth, saying he's got this fever. And it's got this real pedophile vibe to it. And it's like parents are like, okay, that checks out, you know, and they just like, come on, we're going to take him home.
No, thank you.
I'm like, that is some of the laziest writing I've seen.
Yeah, it's like everybody quit at the very end of the script.
Well, see, the thing that aggravates me is that's like 3/4 of the way through the movie.
Oh, no.
And then you get to see the rest of the teenagers die after that. I'm just like, okay, that makes no sense.
No.
I did see a decent movie though to round this out. Trick or Treat. The Michael Daugherty movie.
No, he knows I love this movie.
Oh, I was like, what? It's a hell of a good movie.
I'm just mad he got to see it in the theater. Like, how come we don't get those opportunities?
You seen the sequel?
No.
No,
they
it's
are
the original movie.
Playing it in the theaters.
They're playing it in the theaters.
I don't know that they're doing it at our theater, but you know how there's festivals or not.
I love that movie. That's a good. I like those small snippet type stories. They work good for setting up horror.
But they all just tie in together too, which is kind of cool.
Well, the best are. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's the best thing about Trick or Treat. Like of all those anthology movies, usually you've got one good one, one absolute dud, and one you're like, it had some decent stuff. Every story, I was sitting there trying to rank them in my head, and like there are a couple that I like better, but like they're all up there. Like every time I watch it, I'm like I find new things that I like about each individual segment in the movie.
Well, the best is when you get those small stories, you get to trim all the character development down to like a surface level inspection a lot of times, so you can get right to a story, and you don't even gotta end it good. All you gotta do is just it's ending. This is how it ends. It's awesome. They're quick in their punches. Boom, set it up, hit it, get it out.
Shut the fuck up. Guess what?
What?
It's at the drive-ins.
Ooh, now you know what you're going to be watching.
It is today, tomorrow, Sunday.
Oh, we should go Sunday.
Hold on, let me see.
Get some fried chicken.
Yeah, they have fried chicken.
Hell yeah, at the drive-in.
Yes. So yes, tomorrow Saturday and Sunday 7 p.m. basically.
Go get some of that Winco fried chicken.
The biggest issue I had watching this, and it's probably because I did watch like a matinee, and I'll put it that. It kills me that like movies have because of like the way that everything was shut down with COVID and people got used to streaming, and movie theaters, granted, for years have been overpriced for what they deliver. But I just hate that experience is like going away, because we were there and like there was maybe like 4 other people in the theater with us. That entire theater was dead though. There was like one person, and this is a theater in 2019 before all this hit, that was like, if you went there at any given time, it was just like lines out the door. And there was only one person like working like the concession booth, because there was nobody in there.
Oh, wow.
And this is like in the bigger city. I mean, like the one we have local here is a smaller theater and it's busier. And I was just like, what the fuck is going on with this?
See, I think there's such a big market for drive-ins right now. Drive-ins are awesome because you get to bring your own stuff. It's cheap to get in. It's a real easily marketable thing.
Well, yeah, but go ahead, Reverend.
I was just gonna say we had one in the next county over from us, but they shut down because COVID kind of killed them too. Like the original owner, who had such a passion for it, he was an old man. He passed away. His son took it over. They tried to make a go of it, but then COVID happened, and now we don't even have access to that anymore. But that was the one drive-in we had.
We do. All of our theaters local to us are pretty fucking busy. You pretty much have to buy your tickets on the app, or else you're not going to get seats together. There's still like a few empty seats here and there, but they're more peppered than anything. It's not like, wow, no one's here. The only time you'll get a movie where it's not a lot of people, and I don't know if this is how it is for you every time, but a movie like Trick or Treat, where it's an older movie, people are like, I don't want to pay money to see that in the theater. They don't see the value. We always send our kids to the, I don't know how to pronounce it, Ghibli festivals.
Anime festivals.
Ghibli.
Yeah, Ghibli.
Yeah.
There we go. We send them to those, and they're pricey as fuck. They do charge up for those, but sometimes they're super full. Like if it's, My Neighbor Totoro, yeah, it's going to be booked. But like Howling's Castle, that one wasn't. Yeah, they for whatever reason, that one wasn't super booked. So
yeah, I just got known a movie. I haven't let her seen it yet. It's called Bella. It looks pretty good. I watched like the first 20 minutes. It's hella good.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. Anyways,
wow.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep it on Death Holler right here.
It's a conversation. We're talking about
We
movies.
haven't even started the actual show yet. This is the cold open.
That's true.
So we need to tighten it up.
But that's my biggest. It's just, and I understand that. But this whole theater was like, there was barely anybody in it, and they're playing all of the major movies that are out right now. That's what I was just like, shit. Like the parking lot had like maybe 10 cars in it, and it's like one that held like hundreds. Before.
Sucks.
So it's just like, I was looking at it and I was like, this shit's about to go away. Like, because I don't know about you guys, but if I'm watching a movie at the house, like, because I've not paid anything investment wise into it, I start looking at my phone anymore. Like, even if it's a movie I really like, I'm like, let's just see what's going on my phone. And I'm like, fuck. And I have to forcibly put it away. And I don't have that problem in the theater because, it's a, a darker room, bigger screen. You've paid to get in there, big upcharge to get into it. And it's like, I'm going to fucking watch this movie. I don't, whatever. I'm going to put my phone, on silent, and mute it and all that stuff. But like at home, it's just like, I get kind of check and see what my emails are saying.
Yeah. What's going on in Death Holler?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. That might be a me problem, but I know so many people that do the same shit though. Like they talk up a good game. It's like, I love to stream from the house. And then when you talk to them, it's like, well, did you see this one part in the movie? And they're like, no. And it's like, because they were looking at their phone while they were watching the movie. It's just how it goes.
See, what I like to do is try to get our projector set back up. I like watching stuff outside in the projector. Because you out there, it's different. You're not inside the house. You're outside. Yeah. You're watching on a big screen. To me, it was always fun going out there with the kids and watching horror movies.
Oh, yeah.
That would make for a experience that would be closer to the movies and probably keep somebody's interest because of the novelty of it.
Oh, yeah.
It's different. You're outside, and it's not that too, but it's awesome going out there during a kind of winter when it's not raining, but it's cold. You get a fire pit going, and then you watch out there watching a movie. It makes for an awesome time.
Yeah, I could see that.
Well, speaking of people outside,
let's let those people in.
Let's let them in.
Hello and welcome back to Death Holler. I'm your host and former sea captain, the Reverend Dr. Death, and joining me this evening is a spirit that knows a thing or two about drowning, La Urana. Did you ever use the cover of a deep fog to claim your victims, Urana?
You know, I have not, but I can honestly now say that I've been inspired.
It's apparently a pretty good plan if you're a ghost, just to roll up in the fog and just start ganking people left and right.
Yeah, but the problem is that children rarely play by the water in the fog. Now, granted, we did have one stupid little one in this film. Like, I would have snatched that one up real easy. But yeah, it's not a real catcher of getting the children towards me, you know?
I get you. How are you doing, Noah?
I'm doing solid. Just watching my wife criticize every good movie.
We'll get into that here in a little bit. This evening, we are covering a classic ghost film from a certifiable master of horror. We're taking a little trip out of the holler and into Urana's neck of the woods to see how the good folks of Antonio Bay, California are doing.
That place isn't real.
Years. What's that?
I said that place isn't real.
It's been 100 years since a group of mariners shipwrecked off the coast of the idyllic little town, and the weather report is giving word of a dense fog moving inland. But that's just all a coincidence, right? Join us as we brave the mist and discuss John Carpenter's beloved 1980 film, The Fog. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we would appreciate it if you would take the time to like, comment, subscribe on whatever podcast platform you prefer. It helps us get more visibility on the podcast listings and helps us grow. Also, consider following us on social media. Our new TikTok channels, Death Holler Pod, and we can be found on Instagram and Facebook under the Death Holler Podcast. We appreciate everyone who listens and hope you enjoy the show.
Yeah, we are getting quite, little by little, we're getting more followers on every platform. YouTube, TikTok has taken off, but that we don't know that they're listening to the podcast yet. Here and there, we're getting more people following us. So, hey, interact with us. We do respond, by the way. So,
and they're going to start doing live shows in the near future.
Oh, yeah, we are. Like,
yes.
Literally, it'll, I mean.
There's a number to call in and everything.
No, there is not.
Yeah, there is. There'll be a number so you can call in live.
Yeah, but I can't. I don't know that him and I can commit to, hey, every night at this.
When they do a live show, you can call in.
It'll be the Friday nights or Sunday mornings. It's a surprise. We'll try to announce it.
Let's roll into a Attack of the Bees.
What is that? What is that? What is it? Oh, no, not the bees! Not the bees! Ah! Open my eyes!
The hubby smiling.
I want to make
This
videos
week-
for all your guys' little intro things, like all the transitions, like different things you have. It'd be. I want to set up videos and make videos for it.
All right. I'll send you the stuff and you can get on that.
This week, your eyes will be assaulted by the 1987 film Prison, directed by Rennie Harlan, written by Irwin Yablans, who wrote the story, and C. Courtney Joyner, who wrote the screenplay, along with Rennie Harlan, who's uncredited. Music is by Richard Band and Christopher L. Stone. Richard Band is actually responsible for a lot of Z-grade budget films. Puppet Master and those sort of movies are kind of in his wheelhouse.
What did you say? Z grade?
Yeah. Whenever you think that you've got a movie that's like a B grade movie, just remove some of the budget and you've got a Charles Band film usually. This one was actually made for a budget of $4 million.
That was a lot back then, wasn't it?
No.
It fairly was, but this is actually one of his more prominent movies as far as like having special effects and that sort of thing.
He bought a couple fireworks.
It made a whopping $354,000 in the box office. So
woo!
It didn't make its money back by any means.
Oh shit.
Principal players in this, Lane Smith plays the Warden Sharp, who starts out in the first part of the movie, like the very first intro scene, as a corrupt prison guard, and of course he becomes like this hard-necked warden, later on whenever he gets a little bit more power. And it also turns out that he's a murderer and set the guy up that you see die at the first part of the film and ends up being the vengeful ghost later on. Surprise, surprise. Lane Sharp, for anybody who doesn't know the name, because I wouldn't recognize it, is that smarmy country lawyer that you see in My Cousin Vinny.
Oh, wow.
The one that's always like trying to, get one over on Vinny whenever he's trying to, defend his cousin or whatever. He was also in Red Dawn. He played the conniving, no spine mayor who turns the town over to the commies. He plays the bad. He's always playing a bad guy in movies. He played the bad guy in the Mighty Ducks. He's the one that Emilio Estevez was a student under whenever he was a young kid or whatever, and then whenever he grows up, he's the one that's running the rival the
rich kids.
The rich kids or whatever, the hockey league, and then he's always telling them to do these dirty things to kind of mess with the Ducks. And he's also, which is going to be for an upcoming Attack of the Bees, he was also a bad guy farmer in The Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. So you'll be seeing this guy again in another Attack of the Bees.
Not another bad guy movie.
We have Viggo Mortensen playing Burke.
Never heard
in
of
this
him.
movie. Yeah, never heard of Viggo. Plays a car thief. But he's an honorable guy, he's the stand-up protagonist in this movie, even if he was arrested for stealing cars. And it turns out that Forsyth, the man that you see at the beginning of the movie, who is being, executed, was actually his father. The script doesn't directly give you that, but it's in there, and he's the one that ends up releasing his father's spirit into the prison. So it's kind of got some tie-ins that way. Viggo, what's your all's favorite Viggo movie?
The new one he just did, Future Crimes of the Future.
I forgot that he did that. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
I still need to see it, but I've heard some good things about it. With Cronenberg being at the helm.
One he did is hell good. I still like it. Still holds up. Is The Road. That's another good one he did.
Cormac McCarthy. Mm-hmm.
I'm trying. He has a couple other ones, but The Road is a huge standout movie to me. It's a post-apocalyptic type environment where everything's just sideways and you can't trust anybody.
Oh yeah, it's super dark. What about you, Urena? What do you think?
Well, call back to season 1 of Death Holler, Devil Season. I'm gonna go with The Prophecy.
He was. I mean, we said it then. He is one of the best Satans on film, next to Peter Stormare.
Yes.
I'm a basic bitch. He's Aragorn to me, so there you go. But I'll tell you this: I didn't realize he was in that 1998 Psycho remake. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it. Well, I'll probably gonna rewatch it for next season of Death Holler, anyways.
Oh, I didn't know.
I didn't realize he was in that.
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
I don't even know if I've seen it. But is that really a surprise on this here episode or show?
No.
Everyone around the world, you hear the gasps.
We have Chelsea Field playing Catherine in this. She's the prison board member. She's actually the advocate for the prisoners in the movie, and she's the bane of Warden Sharp's existence because she's always the one checking in and making sure that he's not doing underhanded shit, which spoiler alert, he's doing all the damn time when her back's turned. So, she can only do so much when she's around. She was in the Omen TV movie. She was in The Dark Half. She was in Death Spa, which is a very fucked up movie from the 80s.
The Dark Half. Hold on. I'm trying to remember that one.
That's the Stephen King movie where I believe it's Ed Harris. No, Ed Harris is in Needful Things. It's where you have Michael Rooker playing Alan Pangborn, and then you have the writer director, the writer is the one who's like end up killing everybody because he had this tumor that was removed, and it's like in this ghostly spirit, this pseudonym that he made up, Charles Stark or something like that. Comes back and starts killing all these people, and it just so happens he has the same fingerprints because he's a twin, that was removed or excess.
It sounds almost like you can call the movie Malevolent.
Yeah. Or Basket Case, whatever you want to call it. I didn't realize that she was also in The Birds 2, Land's End, which I've never seen that, but I've heard as far as follow-ups to movies goes, that's not bad. But she was like the voice for Tila in the original Masters of the Universe.
Oh shit.
That's pretty cool.
Wait, the birds like the original Hitchcock?
Yeah, this was a sequel that was I want to say done maybe half a decade to a decade later, and it's got its fans because they went way more into the birds actually killing people on that one, I think, versus the original movie.
The birds' backstory and how they became the way they are. They were really good people until their land was taken.
Anytime I think of the birds, I think of a Riff Tracks movie where they watched this movie about the birds. Not the Stephen King one, but some horrible Z movie that they're watching, and they're just bashing this movie the whole time, and it's the most worstly directed movie and filmed ever. There's parts when they're on the side of the road shooting these fake guns at birds, and there's just regular traffic driving by nothing's wrong. It is so bad.
That's probably Zombie 5, Killing Birds or something, I think's the name of that one. That's supposed to be really bad.
Oh yeah, it was horrible. They were just doing shots in regular public with people just walking around, and they were supposed to be acting like the world's ending. It was so bad.
Well, two things to note. My children did take their Catholic First Communion photos at the church where the original Birds was filmed. So nice little,
That's
and we
pretty
do
cool.
have a picture of us running from birds. Because you can't not do that. Also, you can catch us reviewing the birds in our season When Bad Animals Go Bad. That'll be upcoming.
Yeah, that movie's actually, it stands up. It's a really good movie.
It is. I remember.
We have Lincoln Kilpatrick playing Croesus, who is the old blood. He's been in prisons all over the land whenever he gets transferred in this one. And he's a traitor with a guilty conscience. He's actually the one who turned in Vigo's dad and got him and got Lane Smith's character off from the charges that would have happened to him to begin with. He played in the Piranha, the TV movie, and he played in Soylent Green, amongst others.
Ooh, that's a good movie.
Yeah, it is.
That's such a good movie.
You can also catch Piranha in the upcoming When Bad Animals Go Bad.
Oh, that's going to be an interesting season. We've got to cover Piranha 3 Double D in that movie. In that season, if nothing else.
Yes.
Tom Everett plays Rabbit, who is a scumbag out for himself. You get that from the very first time that he pulls up into the prison and takes control of the bus and tries to run out of the place. And then turns out he's very unsuccessful at breaking out of a prison. He gets a lot of pipes shoved through every damn orifice in his body, and some that don't even exist.
Well, they made an orifice, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, they made a few extra. He was in Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter, Tremors 3, Back to Perfection, Dances with Wolves, and then Air Force One. So he was in a mix of movies.
First off, you can catch me wearing my child's Leatherface shirt right now. I have that on. It is so cool. It actually feels like a face. And also, will we be reviewing Tremors in When Bad Animals Go Bad?
I mean, I don't know if it's that's more of a creature movie. There's a season for creature features, and I think that would probably be better than that. You kind of throw that in there with, I mean, there's all kinds of just movies that are about, like Kindred, the Kindred or whatever. It's like a movie about this weird creature that's like an aborted fetus that turns into a monster or something. It's, you know.
Okay. I just wasn't sure. I was trying to bring up When Bad Animals Go Bad, even though that's not in the near future.
Ivan Kane plays Lasagna, who is a Sly Stallone fan. Got the Brooklyn accent and all that stuff going on. Easy going, but he doesn't value life. The first time he tells Vigo about how he got in there, he basically stole a car, and he's not upset over the fact that he stole a car. He's just upset that the fuckers who tried to pull him over inconvenienced him, and he had to fill him full of lead to try to get out of there. So that's kind of character dealing with old Lasagna.
When was this movie made?
What's that?
When was this movie made?
1987.
Could you imagine
81,
writing it?
I think.
Wait, you're talking. Wait, what are you talking?
87. You're right. 87. Yeah.
Could you imagine writing a character like that nowadays? An Italian guy named Lasagna.
No.
I mean, I could see it, but people are going to be mad.
It'd be hilarious. It'd be almost like that's a character for a comedy movie, a comedy horror movie, like a scary movie.
I didn't put this in there. I just realized it. I missed it. The character that they pair him up with, whenever they all get locked in their cells, is the bad guy from Friday. You know, the one with Ice Cube.
Oh,
you know,
Tiny
the
Lester.
one that's
The one giving the eyes.
Yeah. He's even still got the eye thing going on in it, and you know. I just looked at him and I said, "Is this what happened to him after he got knocked the fuck out?" And rounding out the cast, we got Kane Hodder, who's playing actual Forsyth at the end of the movie. Most of the movie, it's just like the ghost is like these visual effects of like lightning and stuff. But at the end, they actually give him like a body or whatever. Like shit's really going down, and he's and they do the effects are. At times are cheesy, but they're the lovable kind of cheesy. Like when you see somebody like melting at one point, like he's melting inside of his solitary cell. Like, I mean, you can tell, I mean, just the prosthetics, it's like rubber or whatever, but just the way they do them and everything, you got to give credit to them for trying on the budget they had.
Okay.
But Kane Hodder's character Forsyth actually looks pretty good at the end of it. It looks like this undead monster or whatever. And of course, Kane Hodder's been in a ton of shit. He's Jason, the Jason that everybody knows at least. I mean, there was several others, but he took on the role at Part 7, and then like had it for a long time after. And he's the big hulking Jason that everybody remembers. Yeah. 7, he was in that. I didn't realize. He was, of course, Victor Crowley in the Hatchet films. He was in Pumpkinhead Part 2, Blood Wings, Wishmaster, and then Alligator 1 and 2. And then, of course, he was in Ghoulies Go to College, which that'll be in Creature feature season. So we get to see the Ghoulies and their toilet shenanigans.
And you can catch our review of Alligator 1
you
and
know
2 in When Bad Animals Go Bad.
for the creatures.
That'll definitely be in that season.
for the year or for the season you guys do for creatures and stuff like that, Critters.
Oh yeah.
Oh, for real.
Pumpkinhead
that's
too.
100%. And you know what the Christmas episode's going to be? There's only one thing you can put on a creature feature for a Christmas episode.
Gremlins.
Gremlins. There you go.
So excited.
Synopsis for this movie is that overwhelmed with too many prisoners and lacking the budget to build a new one, a Southwestern prison board opens up a condemned prison to carry the overflow. Rebuilding and prison maintenance is left up to the warden Sharp, who puts the 300 prisoners sent to him through hell to get things up and running. Things seem to go as planned until 2 prisoners open up the part of the prison once used for executions and inadvertently unleash a vengeful spirit from the past. No one is safe. Inmates are fried to a crisp. Barbed wire has a mind of its own, and which, by the way, kills Ted's dad from Bill and Ted. That he's one of the prison guards, and he gets a lot of barbed wire inserted into places that don't need to be inserted there. And anyone trying to leave is cut down by a machine gun with a mind of its own.
Ooh.
I'm giving this the Nick Cage rating with Kick-Ass because it's over the top and it's kills, but it's also over the top and it's acting, but it's fun to watch. So
I
want to
see it.
No, you don't. If I get this, you will fall asleep in the first 10 minutes.
That sounds right up my alley. Don't act like it doesn't.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
Okay. I mean, and if I don't like it, then you're right. I mean, I won't lie and not admit that you were right. But I mean, it sounds like a lot
Your
of
rating should be raised on of like a coma to a snooze. It's like coma's like the worst, and a snooze is like your best. I swear to God.
My snooze fest rating.
Yeah.
It has to become an official thing because I can't even count how many times I said snooze fest on this.
I rate this
podcast.
movie a coma.
So
I slept through the entire thing. So on to the main movie discussion for the evening. We have The Fog, the 1980 version. We're not covering the 2005 piece of shit.
But why not?
Well, I think we actually don't we have something from Donnie about that?
Oh,
didn't he?
Son of a bitch! I didn't prepare it.
Okay, well, that look for our coverage of it through our favorite video store owner coming to you soon, because he did cover that movie because he did download the wrong movie this time.
Yes, you know what? I'll probably just edit the podcast. Maybe not the video, but I will edit the audio so that we're just gonna insert him right where he needs to be. You know.
I should have brought the fog machine in here and just blew it at you the whole time.
No, thank you.
So anyways, The Fog 1980, directed by John Carpenter, written by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, which was his ex-wife at the point that this movie's made, which is crazy. But anyways,
it was
music
mutual.
by John Carpenter. Let's just go and throw this out there. John Carpenter is a badass musician. Like, he's got some of the best soundtracks in movies.
Very spooky, nice, I don't know, tension building. But I did notice, because this music did sound like Halloween. And I told the hubby when I'm watching, I'm like, this sounds like the same composer as Halloween. And I did not know it was John Carpenter. So naturally I Googled it. And yes, I was right. It was John Carpenter.
And he has since we're talking about it, he has the music. I mean, I love the theme to this movie. That's the one that you're talking about. It's got the synthesizer and all that stuff to it. But he's got music in the scene where the fog is rolling in toward the end of the movie, and they're all like running away in cars up to the top of the hill where the church is at. That music plays like the music from The Entity. It's like this just like jarring, like thumping music or whatever. And it adds so much to the fucking tension of that scene. Like, you're sitting there like, fuck, get out of there, you know, like, and it's the music that's adding to it more than anything else.
Yeah.
For a budget of $1.1 million, it actually made 21.3. So
dude, barely covered the cost, man. He's lucky. And in this film, by the way, the spoiler alert, is not considered a success. It is monetarily, but it was, in terms of comparing it to Halloween, because it was put out so soon after Halloween, technically. People are their review is that it's not as good, which is fine, but it's not a failure.
You know what's dumb about that, though? The story behind Halloween is it released, it left theaters. People started talking about it. They brought it back to theaters. People kept coming to it. They kept it in theaters. The movie was in movie theaters for almost a year and a half.
Damn.
So it had tons of time to make money.
Yes.
So it's not like, I mean, you know, you got to give a little bit of leeway there. I mean, as far as the comparison goes. Principal players in this is Adrienne Barbeau, who plays Stevie Wayne, the radio DJ and the hot single mom in the movie. She was John Carpenter's wife during the filming of this.
Oh,
and that's what I'm saying. It's kind of weird that his co-writer and producer, Deborah Hill, his ex-wife, had to deal with the fact that his new wife was in the. I don't know how that worked out. It did, because they made the movie, but you know, it's kind of that. Has to be awkward.
well, like sometimes when you're a power couple and the marriage doesn't work out, you're still a good working couple per se. I know that The Rock still has his first ex-wife as his agent.
Okay,
So,
yeah, there are things out there like that. So,
yeah.
This is actually her first acting role in a movie. She was known for like being in a soap opera type, TV stuff before Carpenter put her into this. So this is kind of her break into films. And boy, did she break into films, because she is in a ton of shit. Like, I didn't even include, a fraction of her stuff. I just went like the stuff that was like horror related when I put this down, outside of Back to the School, because that movie's fucking amazing, and Sam Kinison in it just kills it. So watch that movie if you've never seen it. Rodney Dangerfield movie. But she was in Pitchfork, Kindling, Scooby-Doo and Zombie Island. She was a voice in that. She was obviously she was in Escape from New York. She was in The Thing. She was actually uncredited. She was the voice of the computer in the movie, which is uncredited for her. She was in Creepshow. She was in Swamp Thing.
Creepshow. She was such a major bitch in that.
She was the worst bitch in that movie.
What was she in Creepshow?
She was a girl that got mauled by the thing in the box. She was a shitty wife. And if I remember, wasn't that guy that was the university professor also the guy that was the preacher in the Fog?
Preacher, yep.
Okay.
Hal Holbrook, they were working together again, and he was playing her, basically her submissive husband, and like she was like a gold digging bitch that just basically told him where to go and where to stick it, and like she never actually put up any effort on her side of it.
I for some reason cannot remember that on Creepshow. I don't know why that's.
Yeah, the thing just tears her apart.
Creepshow was the one that had the thing in the lake that those kids were trying to escape.
Correct. That's the second.
The Indian guy.
That's the second one. That's the raft from part 2.
And then Thanks for the Ride, Lady.
Yes. Oh, that's my favorite.
That's my favorite one. Okay.
Thanks for the ride, lady.
Okay, moving on. Sorry.
And Old Chief Woodenhead, which would definitely get you canceled today, but
Yes.
let's not even talk about that.
Pretty sure there is a movie that Don could have downloaded about Chief Woodenhead.
But she's been in a tons of horror themed cartoon voiceover work, as well as horror TV series. Adrienne Barbeau is like a queen of horror movies. So like,
Yeah.
She got her start in this movie, but like she went on, like she's amongst like Jamie Lee Curtis, which is also in this movie, and I'm getting ready to introduce next, as being like one of the, some of the biggest in the genre.
Adrienne Barbeau, though, seriously, she has the most soothing voice, which made her perfect for a radio DJ. But like, it was so soothing. Like, it was lulling me to sleep is what it was. And we really do have that out here in California. I mean, I'm sure everywhere has it, and it's probably more of a, like, she's obviously by the bay, Antonio Bay, obviously, but it is a thing where by the bay, they do have these radio stations where they play the soft, comforting music, not as old as what is in this movie, but, similar, maybe smooth jazz or something. And you always have this radio host that sounds just like, Stevie. And I'm like, oh my God.
And the interesting thing about her voice is you can tell the little bit of that smoker's rasp comes in, but it's just enough to make her voice even more soothing. Like, normally that's like a detriment, but it actually helps her voice in this. We have Jamie Lee Curtis.
Never heard of her.
Making her return to a John Carpenter film, playing Elizabeth Solly in this, who is a hitchhiker, a wannabe artist, and a free love kind of gal. She'll just hop in the bed with you if you give her a ride, if you know what I mean.
You give her a ride and she'll give you a ride.
Yeah.
That's right.
She'll pound beers and hook you up.
Pound beers and then go to Pound Town.
She's actually got the remake to Haunted, I don't know if it's a remake, it might be like a new production, but Haunted Mansion from Disney, she's got that coming out in 2023.
Please let this be better than my son loves the Eddie Murphy one, but I've heard it doesn't really even have anything to do with the Haunted Mansion.
You know what's interesting? The Muppets Haunted Mansion that's on Disney Plus is actually not bad.
I've heard that.
She's going to be in the Borderlands movie. She's actually playing tennis in that.
Wow.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
She was in Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is pretty. I mean, she's really frumpy and like looks awful in that movie, but it's a very interesting movie. If you were disappointed with, like I was, with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, watch this movie because it shows you what a true multiverse can actually be like if they actually put the effort into it.
Yeah, it was actually a pretty good movie.
I enjoyed it. I thought they did a great job with it. She was in True Lies. Everybody remembers that scene of her doing a striptease in True Lies.
What?
Also,
if you want to dress like that and go for it, I'm all about that.
She also was a little risque looking in Trading Places. She played a hooker in that movie. Dan Aykroyd
showed
got to
off
enjoy
her titties.
those goods.
Yeah, she showed off her titties. She did. She showed her titties in that movie.
She's in Scream Queens. That Scream Queens to me, it and its sequel, I mean, but the first one for sure, is one of the best Ryan Murphy things that he produced outside of maybe the first couple of seasons of American Horror Story, because it is the perfect like combination of comedy and like horror stuff in it. And I mean, like she's excellent, and it is like the kind of pseudo lesbian dean that's like over the college, but she's not really lesbian because she's like she's screwing around with the Chad character in the story. His name's literally Chad, and he plays a Chad to the nth degree, but that's kind of the humor of it. But check out Scream Queens if you've not seen it. I love it. I think it's great. We might actually even cover during if we have time for slasher season, because it technically fits.
Yeah, how could we not?
She was in My Girl. That's childhood trauma activated.
Emotional damage.
Emotional damage.
Wasn't
you
she
never
in,
look at bees the same way again.
Wasn't she in A Fish Called Wanda?
Yes.
Yes, she was.
And didn't she show her titties in that too? No. He showed his dick though. Yes,
I don't remember.
there was some full frontal dick in that movie. You probably have emotional damage you don't remember.
I don't remember much about that movie other than the fact that they had a couple of members from Monty Python in it, and that's about all I remember from it, to be honest.
It was a good movie. I liked it. I don't remember the full frontal, but yeah, it's all about scammers trying to scam each other.
She was in Terror Train, which I may or may not cover in slasher season, but good God, that movie fucking sucks. Like she's one of the few bright spots in it. It has a young, was it David Copperfield? Was he the magician that was like in the 90s real big, the one that made like the Statue of Liberty disappear or whatever?
No, that's David Blaine. Copperfield's back from like the I want to say back in the day.
Well, yeah, whoever it was, like he it's like a young, like magician scene, like in the middle of the movie. But the movie is so stupid. Like it's set on a train. Like the killer keeps changing. It's like set during New Year's or whatever. So the killer keeps changing these masks out for like this little masquerade party that they're doing. So they never can figure out who it is. I mean, it's got some decent things, but it's so fucking slow. Like it just it killed me to watch that movie.
Sounds like a nope for me.
She was in Prom Night. That's not too bad for its time. Like it came out shortly after Halloween, if not like right after, and it's actually a decent slasher for its time. And of course, she's in the Halloween movies. She's in all of the most of them at least, including Halloween Ends that comes up here soon. So
and boy, is she advocating for Halloween, and I don't mean just the movie. I'm talking about the fucking like the actual holiday. She is on TikTok and she is ripping people's shit about Christmas stuff already. She's like, what the fuck is this Christmas music?
I give her credit for that. She's like, fucking back off. This is our holiday. Let us have it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to sell some tickets.
She was even in Halloween 3 with another actor on this list, Tom Atkins, and she did an uncredited voiceover work in that. I didn't know she was in Halloween 3. I knew she was in, because, she's not... her character Laurie Strode's not in that, but apparently she did do some uncredited work in that.
Yeah, I didn't realize she was in Halloween 3.
We got Janet Leigh playing Kathy Williams in this movie. She's actually the real life mother of Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh, that's funny.
So the councilwoman that goes around, with her young assistant in this movie is actually Jamie Lee Curtis's mom, who was the original Scream Queen in the Psycho, the 1960 Psycho movie.
That's kind of cool.
She was also in Touch of Evil, The Manchurian Candidate, the 1962 version, and she was actually in Halloween H2O, so she was in another movie with her daughter, apparently. So there you go. Tom Atkins, who plays Nick Castle in this, but not the Nick Castle who was Michael Myers in the original Halloween. See, John Carpenter likes to take his friends' names and put them as characters. It plays the sailor owner of the Seagrass, a good old boy, and boy, he can pull some ass. Like he's just, he just has to give you a look and you're ready to go to Pound Town, apparently. I mean, there you go. I sent this meme to Urena. Like, it cracked me up because it had like Michael Myers and he's like complaining to Tom Atkins over the phone. It's like, they didn't even put me in Halloween 3. That was my movie and they wouldn't put me in it. And Tom Atkins is responding back. He's like, shut the fuck up. I just banged your sister. Now get the fuck off the phone. I was like, well, technically he's true. Or he's telling the truth. I mean, he did bang, Laurie Strode. In my head canon for this, I mean, can you not see after Laurie Strode got the hell out of Haddonfield that she didn't just become like this? I mean, she could have been this character under a different name.
Yeah, absolutely, actually.
So, I mean, whatever. I mean, I think that's what's happening in this movie, but that's just me. Anyways, Tom Atkins is actually in a 2019 movie called Trick. I didn't know he was in more recent movies. I've not seen him in forever. He was in Halloween 3 Season of the Witch that he filmed after this, and he was in Eye of the Creeps, which I fucking love that movie.
Oh
and
yeah,
his
that's
character
a good movie.
in that.
He's a badass in that movie.
He's a badass in a lot of his movies, to be perfectly honest.
Is that his official title / role?
Yeah, the Tom Atkins badass, especially if you need somebody that's got like that cop attitude, because he plays a lot of cops and stuff. He's in My Bloody Valentine 3D with our favorite Jensen Ackles. So
I have never seen
he was in that.
I don't remember him in that.
That's because the hubby was focused on Jensen.
Really?
Who's this good-looking guy from Supernatural? Focus on him.
Exactly.
What's Supernatural?
You've seen almost every episode. Don't even fucking lie.
What?
Yep. You were there with me.
Get the fuck out of here.
Laughing, crying, screaming, telling me how dumb you thought it was, falling asleep.
There's no way I watched every single episode with
Almost every episode. He was
No,
there. He
not
was there
even
with me
close.
for almost the whole ride,
No,
everybody.
it went something like this. Can you go watch this shit downstairs? This stuff sucks.
And then he would go downstairs and put something else on.
No.
Because I was watching it in my bed, and I did not fall asleep.
Oh, my God, that show was so bad.
We have Tom Atkins playing in Maniac Cop, who he played with Bruce Campbell in that movie. We have him in Creepshow with Adrienne Barbeau, although he's not in any scenes with her. He's actually uncredited because he does the wraparound story. He's the abusive
Shitty
stepfather
dad.
or dad or whatever. And he was in Lethal Weapon, which is one of the best buddy cop movies out there. So,
Who did he play in that movie? I'm trying to think.
I assume that he just plays like a regular beat cop that's like in the movie. I mean, because like I said, he's got that face and that persona that he plays a cop in a lot of the stuff he does. We have John Houseman playing Mr. Matchin, who's the old sea captain at the beginning of the movie, who's telling the story of the Elizabeth Dane as it's lost at sea. He's already actually been on this podcast before. He was in Ghost Story. He was one of the guys who was responsible for the murder of the lady who became the ghost in that movie. And he was in a wild ass movie from I believe it's the 70s, maybe early 80s, called Rollerball, which is like a post-apocalyptic movie where they where Rollerball actually determines like how wars begin and end or something. Did
you ever watch the one that Dean Cain and them did, which was an early rendition? I want to say late 90s. It was him and Wesley Snipes in it. It was like it went for like a made for TV almost, but it was designed for a theatrical release, I think.
I didn't see that one.
It was back at Dean Cain at the height when he was doing Superman stuff still.
Before he changed political parties and then got canceled by everybody.
Yep, basically.
Oh, that's so shitty how they do that. We have Charles Cyphers playing Dan O'Bannon. who's the weatherman, has the hots for Stevie, and he's apparently a smooth operator because, I mean, given his looks, I mean, he's working his way in there. I mean, spoiler alert, if he wasn't killed by and he wasn't stupid enough to go in the fog, he might have gotten with Stevie Wayne.
Not even once. She would have seen him, be like, "Oh, I don't feel good."
I think I changed my mind. How about you walk into that fog bank over there?
I'm having a brain fog right now. I don't feel good.
I can't see myself finishing this date.
He was the sheriff in Halloween. He was also in Halloween 2. He was in Halloween Kills, and he was also in Escape from New York. So a lot of Carpenter movies. This guy, basically banked his career on work with John Carpenter.
Because when you have a job with John Carpenter, you have a job for life.
If you do a good enough job, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if your name's Kurt Russell, you're going to be in a lot of his movies.
Yeah, Kurt Russell nailed almost every role he ever played for him.
Exactly. There's a reason why he kept bringing him back. We have James Canning playing Dick Baxter in this, one of the three fishermen on the seagrass when the fog rolls in. He's also the one that's the dead body, that one of the creepiest scenes in this movie, where he gets up off the table while Jamie Lee Curtis's character is like in there, by herself, and Tom Atkins is talking to the coroner outside of it or whatever. I mean, he's that, particular guy. We have Nancy Loomis playing Sandy Fidel, who is Kathy's assistant. One of the first to believe that something supernatural is happening, and she was in a ton of Carpenter movies. Assault on Precinct 13. She was the original Halloween. She's the one that's smoking a joint with Laurie Strode, and who's actually Sheriff Beckett's daughter in that one. She was in Halloween 2, Halloween 3. She came back for that one, played a different character in that. We have Hal Holbrook playing Father Malone, who's the priest, and he kind of discovers the secrets of the town founders. And he's really the one that gives the story to the whole movie. I mean, he's the backdrop for it, because they don't know what the fuck's going on, and he's the one that kind of delivers the information to them. And of course, he was in Creepshow with Adrienne Barbeau. He played in the 1988 version of the movie Unholy, The Unholy. And it was actually in a more recent movie, the Lincoln movie with Daniel Day-Lewis. We have John Goff playing Al Williams, which is Nick's friend, Kathy's husband. And he was on Seagrass the night that the fog rolled in. He was in a ton of shit back in the day. They Live, excellent movie. Tammy and the T-Rex, horrible movie. Had a young Paul Walker in that movie. I can't even remember her name. It's going to kill me. She was Kathy Ireland, I want to say, but that's that. I don't think that's, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that was her. But anyways, really weird movie. He was in Maniac Cop, The Night Stalker, Alligator, we've already mentioned, and The Witch Who Came from the Sea. Kind of interesting that he was in this. He made a movie called that. One of my favorite side characters that always pops up in movies from the 80s, George Buck Flower, who played Tommy Wallace in this. He's that fisherman that's also lost at sea whenever they first attack. But he's that guy that you see in a lot of these movies that's always playing like the bum, the weird redneck. I mean, cause he's in Back to the Future. He's the one that's the bum that's sleeping on the bench every time that Marty pulls up in one of the time periods, if you know what I'm talking about. He was also in 1995 Village of the Damned that Carpenter did. He was in Carpenter's Starman. He was in Carpenter's They Live. Escape from New York. He was in Body Bags. He played like the bum in that one. That's kind of like the one that kind of that's the red herring that throws you off of the first story in that movie. And he was also in Pumpkinhead and Puppet Master 2. Probably his biggest role out of that bunch was probably in Pumpkinhead. Like, he actually played a pretty decent sized role for what he was used to and all that stuff.
Well, I didn't realize Starman was a John Carpenter movie.
Yeah, I don't know that it's one of his best, but yeah, it's one of his. It's Jeff Daniels, I believe, is in that one.
Jeff Daniels or Jeff Bridges? Or
Jeff Bridges, yeah, that's who I'm thinking of. Yeah, he plays the title Starman or whatever. Kind of got a weird thing where he takes the form of this woman's dead husband whenever he comes to Earth.
Yeah,
kind of a strange movie. We have Rob Bottin, who's playing Blake, the lead ghost, the vengeful spirit, and a member of the leper colony that was intentionally killed by the town founders. And Rob Bottin wasn't an actor. He did the makeup for most of the movies he was in. He did makeup for Legend, that is lost to time, the 1985 movie that we, discussed, but it's not out there anymore. The Thing, Total Recall, Piranha, The Howling, RoboCop. I mean, this guy made some pretty badass prosthetic effects for a lot of movies.
Now, we've already talked about how Piranha will be in When Bad Animals Go Bad. But what about The Howling? Where do werewolves? Is there enough to do a werewolf season, or do werewolves go when bad animals?
I feel like there kind of is. I mean, but the thing is that there's like 3 or 4 good ones, and then there's a lot of shit ones. So I don't know if we want to combine that with some other, like just make it monster season and just throw it. I don't know.
You should do a werewolf season only.
Well, no, because there could be, no, he's right. There could be like Frankenstein, because there's several Frankenstein movies. There's several werewolf movies. There's several Dracula movies. It could be like Universal Monsters, but not actual just Universal.
Yeah, because like my favorite werewolf movie is Ginger Snaps. That's probably one of my...
That's a really good one. Yeah, but that's the thing. There's The Howling. There's American Werewolf in London. There's Ginger Snaps. If you want to throw in there, Dog Soldiers. I mean,
that's a good
4.
one too.
But after that, I mean,
there's a lot more than that.
I mean, we talked about Silver Bullet.
Silver Bullet would be one I would include in that. Yeah.
Anyways, we got to move on though. I just had to talk about When Bad Animals Go Bad.
Synopsis, and this is going to be a short one. 100 years after they were intentionally sent to their deaths at sea, the vengeful spirits of a leper colony return to exact their revenge upon the descendants of those that wronged them. A glowing fog moves against the wind, dark silhouettes tear the living apart with hooks, and Nick Castle bangs Michael Myers' sister.
Wow. Come get some.
Am I wrong?
I don't see the fault there. I just don't see anything.
All right, we're gonna get into this discussing just the visuals alone. They fucking knocked it out of the park with this movie visually. To me, they hide the ghost and show you just enough of them to give you. I mean, let your mind play. Like how play them up and make them more horrific than they are.
I absolutely loved it. I thought it looked fucking amazing. And you're right. You don't get to see. You see just enough. Like for instance, when we see the body move, it was just enough creep factor to be like, oh shit, and then. But it doesn't show. It shows it from like afar. Obviously, you see the conversation happening. You see this body moving in the background. Fucking loved it.
Well, the big thing too is like for a movie to work properly like that, where you're unloading all the heavy lifting to the individual to use their imagination, it has to be done through good storytelling. If he had did a horrible job of framing out the story and telling the story, it wouldn't have worked as good to have the individual carry the load of let their mind run with the imagination of what it was. That's a big part of any type of doing a horror movie in that aspect, where you're not actually seeing the actual the ghosts themselves and their goriness. You're relying on the individual to carry that load, do all the heavy lifting for you, but you got to do it in a good enough story framing where they're willing to do it too.
Yeah, you have to have just like you're saying, you have to have the setup to where you get the person's mind, like kind of working in overdrive anyways from the story. They're just like, they're invested in it. And then whenever you cut away, then the mind fills in the gap or whatever to continue the story. But if they're not invested to begin with, they won't make that leap mentally. They won't get there because they're just like, whatever. I'm not really following this. But if you are following it, like your brain just fills in the gap, and then it just continues on. But it amps up like so much more than what, like if you don't have and I feel like their budget was probably better than some others, but I mean, $4 million is really still not that much considering. And I mean, even if you count in like inflation and all that. So, I mean, they really did a good job of making it to where you filled in the gaps of like how horrific these things were. And something that don't get credit is the damn fog itself. I mean, I was just sitting there thinking about it whenever I was watching this. Like, it is they were sitting there using these machines left and right and wrangling that stuff to get it to make the effects that they wanted. And I mean, that there's a lot involved in that people probably don't give credit to when they're watching it.
I think the thing that I liked about The Fog specifically, that I liked the most, which probably was the one that looked the least best in terms of the fog, was the fog rolling in with the moon shining over it. It looked a little cartoonish, but when you are looking at beach waves and the moon is shining a specific way, it really does have that blue tinge. It looks almost electric. I thought it looked really good. It was mesmerizing. It was almost pretty to me.
That's something else I think, and I agree with you 100% on that. And I like and something I'm gonna throw in there is like when he cuts to the scenes of like Stevie Wayne like looking out on the ocean, like those scenes are just, I mean, they're just the ocean, but like the way he filmed it, like I mean, I don't know how it looked for you all, but like I was watching like the high def version of it or whatever, and it just, I mean, it it really added to, like the movie, like seeing that big expanse of the water and like the moonlight shining on the water and her kind of, there and like, right before, shit starts happening inside of the lighthouse or whatever. It's kind of like that. It's a nice visual, like, bit of breath or whatever right before the shit goes down. It's like you catch your breath a little and then you're right back in it.
Yeah, I personally liked all the scenes because she had a beautiful view where she was from. She was in the lighthouse, which is very popular out here. It's Point Reyes Lighthouse. Very popular for a lot of schools to go camping there. A lot of history behind it. Sure there's a haunted history somewhere about it, but that's not the main point of this lighthouse. But anyways, going back to the movie, she had a beautiful view. So even during the day, just random times during the day, she would get up, go look outside, and I'm like, man, how fucking beautiful is that? But even at night when it's supposed to look creepy, I'm like, this looks good. So I loved it.
And it adds an expansiveness to the movie that kind of helps too, because visually it expands out the view for the audience, and it kind of like, works in more of the environment to where if you didn't have that and it's just focused on the characters, which can be a good thing if that's what you're going for in a movie, like, like they did with Rosemary's Baby, where they focused it so narrowly on Rosemary that it kind of gave you that claustrophobic feeling. But Carpenter, his intention visually was to open it up so that you got more of the nature of the town itself and the Bay Area, so that you got more of how big of a threat this was, because whenever you see this big expanse and then you see the fog covering up all of it, that's a wide threat area basically whenever it actually does come in.
Yeah. Nope. I think he did a good job visually. I mean, everything visually. I mean, we talked about the makeup. We talked about the scenery, the lighting.
The way that that's what I was getting ready to say. The lighting, the one scene where Dick Baxter is, like he doesn't realize the two other guys on the seagrass are dead, and he's sitting there and he's trying to get like the generator working, and all of a sudden in the background you see like one of the ghosts, could be Blake. It's hard to tell, but like the only way that you really, it's really dark, and then you see just a little bit of lighting that blooms out and then it goes away, and it's just enough to it's like a strobe effect, like a very slow strobe effect where it's like getting closer behind him and he doesn't realize it's there.
Yeah,
like that sort of stuff like really works.
Nope, it does. It looked really good.
And the scene at the end of it where Blake's like eyes light up red or whatever whenever he's talking to the the priest or whatever, that's really creepy. I mean, the way that was done.
Wait, what? Blake?
Yeah, that's like the lead ghost.
The lead ghost.
That's
okay, I was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he had a name, and I know you mentioned it already, so I apologize. People getting frustrated.
But just as his eyes, and one of the things I liked is whenever he's having that battle with the priest, his eyes are like that stark red. The cross is made out of gold starts turning that like bright yellow color.
Yeah,
and like it's like the first time in the movie when you really get like a bit outside of the blues and the greens and and the white of the fog or whatever. It's like the first time you really get a splash of color and it really stands out, like almost like a comic book or something.
Yeah, no, and it was. It wasn't too overdone, and it didn't look cheap. It's the weirdest thing. It's just not something that I expect. This was my first time watching this. It was. I had not seen it. I feel like I've seen it before. because there were certain things I remembered, like there was the book that was found in the, in the stones, and there was the stone falling. I know I've seen that. For sure have seen it. So I'm like, have I seen the rest of this movie? But I don't remember Stevie. So I'm like, okay, maybe I saw bits and pieces of this movie and I just moved on. I don't know.
You know that guy that was talking to the priest in that scene right before that scene happened. You know, the one that was like, "When you going to pay me?" Father or whatever. And he's like, "Well, how about you come in a couple hours later tomorrow or whatever?" You know, like that was John Carpenter.
Oh, that's so funny.
What do you think, Noah? What do you think of the visuals? Anything stand out to you?
Hubby, he wants to know what you thought about the visuals in the film.
What I thought about the visuals?
Yes, that's what we're talking about right now.
It's hard to rate it because you're always looking at the scope from current tech, but for the time it was awesome. Like I thought they did a good job of having the fog as dense as it was, and being able. Don't put the camera on me. I'm the producer.
Oh, my bad.
I'm not even dressed like you guys are for it. I'm like, whatever.
Oh, okay. Well, we're wearing t-shirts.
You're over there putting makeup on. Let's get honest.
I have to. I look like a fucking ghost.
Anyways, but if you look how good the fog was, like dense-wise in the real scenes, they did a good job of making the fog stay dense and float into each scene. Like, think about how many movies nowadays where they try to roll fog in, and all it is it's just dissipated. It doesn't have that dense, heavy feel look to it.
It looks like our fog machine that we have.
Yeah,
it's all patchy.
It just sprays it into the air.
It's barely mist.
Yeah. I like the fact that the fog was like. I'm curious how they were able to get the effect of that fog being really, really dense and keeping it like sticking to the ground.
Well, and then we were talking about the glow. Do what now? You want this back?
Yes.
There you
go. Going along with what he said earlier, though, the story, like, I mean, it's. I love the setup for it because right from the get-go at the beginning of the movie, whenever they have, Mr. Matchin like relaying that ghost story to the kids, it gets you in the vibe instantly of what he wants you to be in for this movie. Like it's like, okay, calm down for a second, let's sit here and listen to this. And it's like, these people died, off the coast of this 100 years ago tonight. This is the anniversary. And it's just like, you're getting the set. It's like sitting around. I mean, it's exactly what it is, but it's like being in a campfire tale or something. And somebody's like telling a ghost story at night or something.
Yeah. The fog got me. I was super curious. I wanted to do research to figure out how they were able to get it so dense and to kind of actually make it work good on the scenes. Because there's so many movies you watch, like even to current day, where it's just abysmal the way they pulled off the fog.
Oh, it's ridiculous. I mean, it doesn't look anywhere near. I mean, like what this did. I mean, this was a true fog bank. Like every time that it showed up. Also, story wise, that I enjoyed about this is the way that they used. I mean, because you kind of had the other characters like Stevie and and then Nick and Elizabeth or whatever. They're kind of just like bumbling their way through, kind of discovering things as they can. Like you got Nick investigating the seagrass, and he's got the ties to that, which also ties into Kathy just a little bit. But then you have Stevie, who's like the front line, who's kind of like I really like her role in that because she's trying to like steer the people away from like the worst areas because she has the best vantage point. But like they're all kind of just like dealing with the stuff as is. And the only person in the movie that has like any inkling of what is even going on is the priest. And it's because of that journal that's introduced at the beginning of it.
Yeah.
It's a neat like narrative conceit or whatever to kind of get the background history or whatever to a character so they can kind of relate to everybody else, because they're all just like, what do we do, like what the fuck is going on? And like he's like, oh well, this journal says this is what happened, and they have to, and they don't get any answers from it. They have to extrapolate. It's like, well, maybe he wants to cross because that was the gold they were supposed, it was made out of the gold that they were supposed to have paid or whatever to be members of the town. And then, but they also have the whole thing going on about 6 will die before the night is through.
That part where she's in the lighthouse and that piece of driftwood starts leaking, and then all that weird, creepy stuff comes over the radio. That part was that was one of my favorite parts of the movie. It's like a precursor to what's coming.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is very creepy. It's, I mean, it sets up a lot. I mean, of, you know, just like the tension that's coming up with it. It's just, and the whole thing that he worked in with the Elizabeth Dane or whatever. And then like the kid, you know, Stevie's kid finds like the gold piece that turns into the, you know, a plank from that, you know, ship. And then that's what, you know, is inside of her, you know, lighthouse whenever it actually starts all that, you know, weird, like, you know, somebody's talking over the, you know, the speakers and all that stuff. It's a good time. I mean, it's a good, like, little creepy thing that he worked into the story too.
Any thoughts?
What are your all's thoughts? Anything else that you, Urena, that you can think of as far as the story goes?
I liked the backstory. I thought it was cool. I probably would have done the same thing to that Leaper community.
Really?
Absolutely would have done that.
Wow.
I would have been one of the 6 that needed to go.
Like a true Catholic.
Get away, lepers.
Yeah. We don't lack your kind.
disease.
We don't lack your kind in these here parts. Not in this here beautiful oceanfront
you know
property.
What, the thing I liked most about the movie, I like revenge in a movie, especially if it's executed good. And I'd like the end where they came back because there was still unsettled business that needed to take place.
Well, I mean, he technically he signed a contract. He's like, take me, you know. So they did.
Yeah. I like how they set it up where you think for a second it's like that's all they needed was.
Oh man, our Wi-Fi sucks. Poor Kay though.
Oh man.
Oh, he's back. There he is.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize that I got booted or whatever.
Well,
but yeah, I was just saying that I like how they worked that in with the 6th person or whatever is going to get, you know, is still going to get claimed. You think that the gold is enough, but you know, and they had that little extra scene right at the end.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder if they're going to come back in the future again.
They did in 2005.
Yeah, and Tom Welling playing a pussy version of Nick Castle that isn't banging Michael Myers' sister. He is.
You know what the redeeming quality of that movie is, just by looking at the cast, is Selma Blair.
Yeah, there was a hot minute there where she was she was in some decent stuff.
Yeah, you know, it's funny what you said about Tom Welling is because he's very much an advocate for himself of what he wants to portray and what he doesn't want to portray and what he's going to do. So listening to one of our favorite shows, Inside of You, he was telling Michael Rosenbaum, yeah, you know, there's times where they told me to take off my shirt and I was like, why? What does that bring to the story? You know, what am I doing? If I'm in the locker room and I'm changing, fine, I'll take off my shirt. You know, if I'm, you know, drinking coffee at the Beanery, which is the name of their cafe, and you want me to be shirtless, he's like, what the fuck am I doing that for? I'm not going to do it. So I wonder if that's how he was on the set of the 2005 film, where he's like, I don't want to be the hot guy that's just banging chicks, you know?
But that's what he was.
I know. I don't know. I'm just wondering if that he's not that type of actor. So I'm like, were they just okay? Like,
Pump the brakes. Hold on. What do actors do?
They act.
Okay.
Okay. Well, what I'm getting at is I'm wondering if he did, if he actually said no, and they said, well, we want you anyways because he was big at the time, or if that's just how it was already written.
I just laugh when I hear actors like, that's not me. It's like, motherfucker, this character's not you. You're pretending to be someone else. What are we talking about?
He apparently had enough pull in a fucking 15-year-long series.
I know, but do you understand the insanity? Your job is to pretend to be somebody you're not.
He didn't want to do it.
So when I hear actors say, I have standards, it's like, no, you don't.
And that's fine, because if he didn't want it, they didn't have to pick him. They could have picked another actor and said, well, fuck you. And he knew that. So.
And maybe they should have, because the trailer looked abysmal.
He should have took his shirt off. Is what my husband's saying.
Really?
He would have liked it better.
I just thought about something with a story that just came to me that I loved about this movie. There's the scene where Jamie Lee Curtis and Tom Atkins is in the boat, the Seagrass, after they discovered that it's just out there floating, and they realized had all this damage. It's like that looks like it's been underwater for ages, and Tom Atkins, like in the middle of that, tells her that story about how his father, who was a fisherman too, once came upon like a ship similar to that, and like there was nobody on the ship. It was completely empty. Still steaming the drink, their coffee, and all there was like there was a gold piece that was like left on the boat or whatever, like an old doubloon, and like that whole scene. Just it's so creepy the way that he's telling it and the way it focuses in on him. That's just something else I thought about.
Yeah, and then when he came home, what did it turn into? He said,
what did he say that it turned into? Do you remember like what it was?
I don't remember. Let me see if I can find it on Google.
Look at that, and he didn't even have to take his shirt off. He was that good of an actor.
Wasn't he partially naked with Jamie Lee Curtis in the part of the...
He was wearing a wife beater.
Oh, okay.
He's just fitting the character.
Okay, hold on.
Didn't he say something about how it like disappeared or whatever? Like, or it wasn't there like when his dad...
It turned into something else is what he said. Just like that that original gold coin turned into that piece from the Dane.
Well, it cuts off what it said. Gold coin in the surf that strangely turns into a plank of wood. No, that's
what the kid found.
That's what the kid found, yeah, but it doesn't say.
Why am I having such a brain fart over that?
Yeah, anyways.
You know what got me? I was thinking about the kid that was running around the beach, and it's like that is such a nail to the era where kids couldn't just go do stuff like that and no one thought twice about it.
Oh yeah, if Stevie Wayne was like a mom, like in today's culture, like she would have like 3 or 4 people like on him at any given time, or she would just up and like leave the lighthouse itself just to go. I mean, she's like being a helicopter mom or something. Like that wouldn't be a thing.
Put your tracker on you so I know you're at.
Yeah, I do know that beach is one of the beaches where we have those. I forget what they're called, but they're just waves that just randomly come up and they suck you into the ocean and. We'll find your body when we find it.
What is it, Riptide?
Yeah.
Yeah, Riptide, yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. And now there's signs everywhere, obviously, because so many fucking people have died and people still, every year, still dying from it. Because it's the ocean's so calm and then all of a sudden you're fucking gone.
What do you all think about the acting in the movie? I feel like most of it's serviceable. I don't think that any of it necessarily stands out as like the best I've ever seen, but it all adds, like collectively it adds to where it's what it needs for the movie.
It is what it needs and nothing more. It's okay.
I think it's better than okay, because you got to realize this movie isn't predicated on the special effects. It's predicated on the characters carrying the story. Mm-hmm. So the characters are the ones that sell you to get you to do the heavy lifting because it's not visually over the top. So if you do it through that lens, the acting is actually really good.
The one thing I'll give you, Noah, is the fact that when the actors need to be scared or concerned, they all sell it. Like, Jamie Lee, Tom Atkins in that scene where he's talking about his dad, discovering, like, you can tell in his face that he's haunted by the story itself and what he's seeing, like he's really concerned. And then, of course, Adrienne Barbeau, like, I mean, she's totally selling the fact that she's like concerned for the town, like son at that one. She's like, will somebody get to my son? Well, like when she's screaming out and all that. It's just that at times, it's there's no bad acting, but there's times where I'm just like, there's some of it just kind of does what it needs to do to get like to the next scene or whatever. Like Hal Holbrook, like he's not bad, but like a lot of his is like just the work that needs to be done to add to the plot and the backstory. It's not like anything that I watch and I'm just like in awe of. I mean, they all do their part, but it's not like anything like super, stand out in that way.
Yeah, I agree. Again, what I said is the acting was okay, but it wasn't bad acting. It just, I don't know how else to put it. Just okay to me.
I mean, even the kid actors are notorious. I mean, he did enough. Like, that's what I mean. Like, and he, in the scenes where he needed to look concerned or frightened, he did what he was supposed to do in them.
Yes, we'll give them that.
And we already talked about music. The music, God, this has got a good soundtrack to it. It really does.
Yes. From the music played on the radio station to the actual originals that John Carpenter himself created.
It's just, I mean, it's he knows how to. I mean, you can tell he's a musician in his heart. Even if you remove all the directing, the writing, and everything else that he's creatively good at, I mean, he's good at making music, and I mean, he actually does that now with his son.
Does it lower the budget of the film that he's actually composing the music, or does it increase his pay?
I would say it's both at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, I'll get to it, but I mean, like, there's a reason why they made her like a DJ for a like jazz thing instead of like what they wanted. But I'll get to that here in the trivia here in a second. Is there anything else y'all want to discuss about the movie before we go to trivia?
No.
You know what I was thinking
sorry.
when you were talking about the soundtrack? Like there's one movie consistently the soundtrack, and I'm curious if he did the soundtrack, if he was the main proprietor of the soundtrack, is The Thing, the way that soundtrack set up.
I mean, it's John Carpenter.
I've not researched it, but I guarantee you had some hand in it. Like he always tries to have, like, 'cause he just loves that part of it too. Like after he's done with everything else in the movie side of it, he loves going and actually doing the music for stuff. He's actually the best part of that new Firestarter remake. Like the music that he put to that, the soundtrack is actually really good. But
Yeah,
like the movies,
I'm just
whatever.
thinking of the thing and the pacing that music brings to it. It's like at every turn, it's an ominous feel. It presents a very different experience. Like I couldn't imagine what it'd be like without that soundtrack.
Yes, John Carpenter was one of the music composers for The Thing. Let me see. There was another person involved, but I don't know. I don't have all the details.
I got a feeling he has a heavy hand in it.
Yeah, John Carpenter.
I'll just say that I mean, I collect a few like horror themed song or like albums or whatever that they're like the orchestral music or whatever to the movies, and the ones that I collect are the ones I enjoy the music from the most. A lot, Danny Elfman, of course, Beetlejuice, that sort of thing. But Carpenter, like there is several of his that I've got, just because I mean, like. Escape from New York, like awesome, synthesizer type music in that. The original Halloween, it's classic, and then of course this movie, like he's consistently good with his composing work.
Yeah, I'm always curious what it'd be like to watch a movie I like a lot and remove the soundtrack from it and see what the experience would be.
I was actually able to do that whenever we covered the Frighteners, because they have an option where they show they're talking about like how the music and the sound effects both add to a movie, and they show you a scene from the beginning of the movie where they cut Danny Elfman's soundtrack out and they show you just the scene with the sound effects. Doesn't have nearly the kind of like urgency and drama, and then they play it again where it takes out the gunshots and the other stuff that's actual sound effects with just his music. That looks kind of goofy because your mind's just like, okay, where's the other sounds at? And then where they play all together, it makes you appreciate the fact that all this stuff's working in tandem.
Yeah,
to kind of add to the experience.
Okay, so on The Thing, Ennio Morricone, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it properly, was the composer, but John Carpenter kind of forced him to compose as John Carpenter would. And this guy's like, if you know how to compose your own music, why are you making me do it the way you would do it? It's basically in the style of John Carpenter.
Because I don't want to do the job. I want you to do the job that I want.
Well,
shut up and do it.
Yeah, and he was like, well, he really appreciated this guy's music, and it had a kind of European feel that he wanted. And so he was like, I want you to do this, but I want you to stylize it as I would do it, The
thing is, though, if you hire Ennio Morricone or whatever, who was like responsible for some of the greatest, spaghetti western soundtracks in history.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all those like old, like the Fistful of Dollars, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. If you get that guy in your movie, it's kind of weird to demand him to take his own style that he's known for and then turn around and do like another one, because like that's what he's hired for, is that style.
Yeah. It's insane.
I mean, he was hired by Tarantino to do like the score for The Hateful Eight because Tarantino wanted that old spaghetti western, vibe in his movie.
Shocker.
Anything else about the movie before we go on to trivia?
No, let's move on to trivia.
Although this was essentially a low-budget independent movie, John Carpenter chose to shoot the movie in anamorphic widescreen Panavision. This decision gave the movie a grander feel to the viewer, so it doesn't feel like a low-budget horror movie. That goes back to what I was talking about with those big vistas that he shows. I mean, and it does. It makes the movie look more epic than it would otherwise.
Well, it makes it look like that's a fucking fancy-ass area. So it looks like money, literally just on screen. Looks like I can't afford to be there.
Adrienne Barbeau's character was conceived as a female version of Clint Eastwood's character in Play Misty for Me, who was also a late-night DJ on a San Francisco Bay Area coastal town's radio station. Barbeau patented her voice after Alison Steele, who was a female disc jockey from the 60s who was known as the Nightbird.
Wow.
Jazz music was used for Stevie Wayne's radio station because it was more affordable than rock music. He really wanted her to be a rock DJ, but they could not, with the budget, have the visual effects and everything else. So he's like, you know what? Fuck it. What's cheap? And then they were like jazz, and he's like, yeah, let's go with it.
Oh yeah, especially the time era jazz that they were playing. What was this, the fucking 1940s?
It worked.
Yeah,
yeah, I loved it. And like I said, that is really what did we have? Delilah was what we had out here. Now she played soft rock on her stations back in the day.
A lot of Sade and stuff like that.
Yeah, so she had some jazz, but soft rock too. But in the Bay Area towns, the channels you get like that are just like what you get in this movie. So it was on our end from California. It was sold.
I'm glad that I feel like it works for the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's one of those things where it's like she's running just a local radio station. You figure that most of her job anyway is just to relay the news, like, other stuff that they're more worried about. And like if she plays a little bit of music in the background, whatever, it's like not like, people are depending on her for the music portion at least. And, and then, if Carpenter had to skimp on something, that's a perfect place to skimp. He knew where he needed to put his budget at.
Yeah. How would you guys have felt if it was a rock station? With her soft voice and soothing voice?
Not that, but okay, this is a problem, is rock would not fit that town. I think that jazz feel.
It was laid back, yeah.
Yeah. I think it did a better job on modeling onto the town.
Yeah, I agree.
It might be one of those happy circumstances where the budget creatively worked him into an angle to where it actually fit the movie better, because that happens all the time. Like, they have these ambitions and then they have to scale them down, and then it makes them get creative, and then what they work into, it actually fits better for the theme that they're going after anyways.
Yeah, I think it worked great.
The lead ghost, Blake, was played by makeup art specialist Rob Bottin, like I said. When Bottin asked for the job, Carpenter asked him to stand up. Bottin then expected Carpenter to say, and get out. And when Carpenter saw that Bottin was a large man at 6'5", which is what he needed for the character Blake, he's like, all right, you're hired.
That is so funny. How sad this guy's needs a job. He thinks he's immediately getting told, get the fuck out.
Stand up, now fucking leave.
Now get out. Hey, Carpenter, for his genius, he is known to be hard to work with. Let's just put it out there. The man, because he knows what he wants, and if you stand in the way of that, he's not above telling you to fuck off. He is definitely one of those people.
So wait, Bottin wanted to be an actor in this movie, or he wanted to do makeup?
He wanted to be that character in this movie, and then he figured that for him being so bold as to say that he wanted the part, even though he was the makeup guy, that Carpenter was like, all right, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. I like that.
Carpenter has stated two inspirations for the film, both of which were related to Great Britain. The first was the British film The Crawling Eye in 1958, which dealt with monsters hiding in the clouds. He also stated that he and his co-writer producer Deborah Hill were inspired by a trip to Stonehenge, the ancient monument in southwest England, which was covered in fog during their visit. So that's
was this
cool,
while they were married, or while he was married to Stevie?
It's possible that it was whenever they were still together. I mean, they might not have been, you know, like they would have had to been together. I mean, from take a trip. So yeah,
a work trip.
Although this movie cost just over $1 million to make, Avco Embassy spent 3 times that amount on advertising. So the $4 million. Now this makes it even worse. I mean, you got to give this movie fucking credit for what it accomplished. He only used $1 million to actually make the movie. The other $3 million that goes into that $4 million budget was fucking advertising.
Damn.
So, and that included TV ads, radio ads, print ads, and the studio even installed fog machines that cost $350 each in the lobbies of select cinemas where the movie was showing. Now that'd be fucking cool.
That would be awesome.
Sorry.
Yeah. You can't do that shit now because you're gonna have the people that are like tripping and falling and like, oh, I hurt myself.
Yeah, but you know, we've said this before that you know, if and after my rant about the movies, if they want to get people back in the movie theaters, it needs to be an experience. They need to go back to doing something to make it like stand out.
Yeah, have skeletons flying over your head or fucking, I don't know, even fucking people spooking you randomly, you know?
Yeah, just anything. Like if you just had like a guy who was like in a cheesy suit that kind of matched with something on the screen, and he just randomly came in there and just popped up in the crowd, and like people started talking about it. Just anything like that would be like, you know, it would add to the experience of being in the theater. It would give you a reason to go versus just like, well, I can watch this shit at the house.
And
you know?
only at random theaters though. Like just not even like the biggest theaters, you know. It's you definitely got to go to the smaller ones, make it happen. The only problem is you get the over dramatic teenagers that are just like, and that's all you hear is squealing, and then it's like, okay, he's fucking gone. Shut up.
So imagine you're watching Halloween Ends, and some big guy walks in dressed as Michael Myers, like partway through the film, and just starts like walking through the audience. Like, I mean, I think that'd be great. I'm just throwing that out there.
You can even one up that and have one of the audience members in on it, and that dude just stabs that person in the chest.
No, yes, that'd be fucking awesome. But you're gonna have the people that panic, leave. I mean, mass hysteria, guys. We've been a part of that before. Like
cats and dogs living together. Yeah, we've heard it all before from Bill Murray. We know what you're talking about.
It would be so fun to see, but yeah, like I don't know. Like somebody's gonna fucking panic over that shit for real.
The funny thing about Embassy, the one that like was the one that produced or sent this out, they were the same company that screwed over Frank LaLoggia, who made Lady in White so bad that that's why he, you know, ended up independently funding Lady in White whenever that came out. So it's one of those. At least Carpenter got what he needed out of these people. They screwed over, you know, LaLoggia a little bit later on. The actress Adrienne Barbeau and director John Carpenter were married at the time this movie was made and released. He wrote the role of Stevie Wayne for her specifically. Like, there was no other, you know, person in mind for the role.
That's love.
That's a pretty good way to get a piece of ass. I'm just saying, you know, like it's. I mean, it works for Rob Zombie. We know that he does that, and
they're already getting ass from them. They're married.
So they're probably not getting ass.
You still got to, I mean, you know, there was a lot of married men out there that argue you still got to do something. I mean, because it gets to the point where it's like, I got a headache. The fog is, I've got this brain fog going on.
Yeah.
You don't look like a guy from that's speaking to me over the radio.
You want your ladies to be whores still. We don't have sex for free.
Father Malone's assistant at the movie's beginning, Bennett, was John Carpenter, but uncredited. I just think that's, if you watch it, it's hilarious looking at him. He looks like such a hippie at this point.
Yeah, whatever. What was the meaning of that? To like the show that the father was being greedy? I was trying to interpret it.
Yeah, it was. I think that, I mean, it's in a roundabout way showing that like he's not that far removed from his like great ancestor, you know, that, you know, he talks about how he was like stingy and stuff and kind of, but like he's literally telling this guy, it's like, I know you had you work a few hours over, but I'm not going to pay any fucking thing extra. Just come in a few hours later because I'm a cheapskate, you know?
Yeah. Well, at this point, does the father like, does he know about the gold already? Is he hiding?
Oh, he has no idea.
Okay. I wasn't 100 on that. So, all right.
At one point during the movie, Tom Atkins' character mentions Bodega Bay. That is the scene of another horror movie, The Birds, since we've already talked about that. And when Tippi Hedren's character pulls in the town, all hell breaks loose. In this movie, when Jamie Lee Curtis's character pulls in the town, all hell breaks loose.
Fucking women and their periods. They can smell it.
Really?
It's like Komodo dragon. It's just gonna don't get near them whenever you're on that time of the month. So. After a rough cut of this movie appeared to be too short for a theatrical release, clocking in about 80 to 85 minutes, which is too short for, to get in a theater, John Carpenter had to add more scenes. And amongst those is that prologue with the, Machen telling the ghost story. So, actually, that's another thing that worked in his favor, because I think that scene's great as an intro to the movie. And that was something he had to add just to get it in the movie theaters.
It's a good setup for sure.
Speaking of that, Houseman's opening monologue, which is supposed to transpire over the course of 5 minutes from 11:55 to 12 midnight, is in fact only 2 minutes and 25 seconds long. From the moment he mentions it's 11:55 to the moment the bell rings in the background signaling midnight. So there's a little bit of a narrative cheat there, but it works.
Oh my God.
Houseman worked only for 1 day of this movie and was given a special appearance credit. His scene at the campfire was shot on a set rather than outside. And his name, Machen, could be a reference to Arthur Machen, a Welsh actor and mystic in the 1890s and early 20th century, who was known for his influential supernatural fantasy and horror fiction.
Nice.
Which I think he wrote The Great God Pan, which is a very creepy story that was kind of worked in the Cthulhu mythos later. The lighthouse used in the Point Reyes is the Point Reyes Lighthouse in Marin County, California. Stevie Ray can be seen climbing down exactly 313 steps to the Point Reyes Lighthouse. The stairs go down 900 feet, the equivalent of 25 stories, and the stairs sometimes close as the winds can reach 40 miles per hour through there. It's kind of crazy.
It's insane, and I've actually, when I was in 6th grade, not very long ago, we were not allowed to go up the stairs because it was too windy that day. And they're like, yeah, you can fly off. And it's like, well, that's fucking wonderful. Yeah.
When Father Malone first discovers the journal, he glances at the title page and flips to an open page of text that is partially blocked and seen only for a split second. The visible portion reads with spelling errors, something, my college education to work writing dumb shit in fucking movie props being one. It's time to bring in the words guide or the big tits, tattoos, and shaved beavers. I know horny blocks would go blocked some of that. So whoever had to write the journal, they had a good time writing that little bit.
Oh my God.
That made it into the movie?
It did. For like a split second.
So if you pause it, you can actually make it out?
That's apparently somebody did, because they put it in these IMDb trivia notes. It's hilarious.
Oh my God.
The journal's last page that Father Malone reads when he finds it in the wall says April 30th, midnight till 1 belongs to the dead. Good Lord deliver us. It's a reference to Walpurgis Night, a pagan feast which happens in the night between April 30th and May 1st. It's pretty cool. In the Blu-ray audio commentary for the movie, John Carpenter noted that the deliberate wrecking of the Clipper ship and its subsequent plundering was based on an actual event, the wrecking of the Frolic, that took place in the 19th century near Goleta, California.
Dang, California has a lot of fucking history.
It does. There's a lot of missions here and a lot of everything.
The role of Father Malone was originally offered to Sir Christopher Lee, who believed, who's going to be on our next episode, by the way, who believed that the character to be the father of who's believed to be the father of the community. However, Lee proved unavailable, and Hal Holbrook was eventually cast.
I think it worked.
He was good for the part. Tom Atkins' character's name is Nick Castle, which is what I said. It was the original actor who played Michael Myers. John Carpenter does this a lot with Nick Castle being one of them. Dan O'Bannon, which is Carpenter's Dark Star co-writer. Tommy Wallace was named after Carpenter's real-life collaborators from the previous movies. Was also another one. And Mrs. Kobritz was named after Richard Kobritz, Carpenter's producer on Someone's Watching Me, that came out in '78. So he likes to take his friends and put their names as characters.
That's kind of cool.
Let's see. The character played by Carpenter in the movie, Bennett, is named after Carpenter's best friend, Bennett Tramer. They went to University of Southern California together, and Carpenter used the character name Ben Tramer in Halloween also as a potential love interest for Laurie Strode. So his friend is gets a little name call out in some of these movies.
Yeah.
While driving the lighthouse, Stevie flips around the radio dial and a broadcast confirming a search for the ship, the Seagrass, is heard. The voice mentions a sweep south of Whately Point and Arkham Reef. Both Arkham Reef and the name Whately are references to writers H.P. Lovecraft, as he used both repeatedly in his stories. And Carpenter is an admitted huge fan of Lovecraft.
Kind of cool, especially since they're out at sea and some of Lovecraft's creatures. I mean, come on.
Yeah, you can tell the Lovecraftian. I mean, even the characters, although they don't have the visual effect on them, are kind of like barnacled, like like sea creatures, or like the ghosts are anyways. And that kind of reminds me of like the Enmouth story or whatever, that where people are turning like these like kind of sea monsters or whatever slowly. So I mean, it's got some definitely H.P. Lovecraft vibes that way. Although she was known for her television roles, this was the debut film for Adrienne Barbeau, as I said earlier. Carpenter originally intended to secure this movie with a PG rating through the absence of blood, but it ended up with an R rating anyways.
So
You should have just put the blood in it.
How many times have we said that on this podcast, though? It's ever fucking like the MPAA, which they're just the MPA because they took the America out of it. It used to be like the Movie Picture Association of America. They changed it towards just the Movie Picture Association, so they could be more global.
Oh,
whatever
okay.
you want to take that to be.
But why even go for a rating? Who cares? Do you have to have a rating?
Well, back in the day, it was like the kiss of death if you got like an R rating, because you could like it barely played in theaters. Like they were like, I mean, especially in like Reagan's like America or whatever. It was like they censored things so much that they wouldn't let it play in a lot of places. So and even today, they still try to avoid the R if they can, because it limits the audience that'll come see it, and that's what they're mainly going for.
But does it though?
It does whenever you're trying to get like families involved. Now, like a lot of people, like I actually will go more toward a movie that's rated R, but that's, but I mean, but there are a lot of people out there. I mean, there's friggin' people talking about their fucking passing out, throwing up and shitting themselves, like literally because of Terrifier 2 that just came out in theaters. And I'm like, fuck you all. Like seriously, like, what, have you never seen a horror movie before? I just don't get it at all. But anyways, he didn't get the PG rating, but the movie is fairly bloodless. If you watch it, it really is.
It is,
it cuts away before.
Kind of expected more blood,
I'm curious about what about the movie got it rated R?
The only thing I can think of is the fact that they're getting killed with hooks. Like there's the one scene where it's implied that the one guy, Dick Baxter's character, the character Dick Baxter gets like the two, like, knives through the eyes or whatever. I mean, I think it's stuff like that, which is totally stupid. But I mean, because it's all implied and it doesn't actually show it, but that's how the MPAA rolls.
Like, we were talking about it for
the Frighteners. We were talking about it for the Frighteners, and he was going for a PG-13 or a PG for that one. Peter Jackson was, and he still ended up with an R, and it had nothing to do with blood. It happened to do with the fact that he had a scene where Jake Busey's, or I don't think it was Jake Busey, it was actually Dee Wallace, shot through like one of the doors with a shotgun, and because there was bullet holes in the door, bullet holes, not like the shooting through the door, but the holes themselves were what gave him an R rating. And he said once he realized that that's what they were going to buck on, like he got so pissed, he's like, I should have made this whole movie just way much gorier than what it was.
Not anything to do with the ghost fucking scene, No, it was
any of that.
Bullets in the door.
I mean, they have some stupid ass things that they grade on. Like, I don't even know. Like, I mean, they come up with some of this shit. This movie was shot in just 30 days. That's crazy.
Yeah.
A month?
1 month. And they got this movie, which is damn near perfect. Like, I mean, like this puts to shame all kinds of movies like right now, like that's came out. That were filmed for a lot longer and for bigger budgets. With the opening credits roll, just as Tom Atkins' credit appears, plays over an eerie shot of Antonio Bay at night with a car car headlights seen driving through a coastal road in the distance. At a Q&A session, director John Carpenter said, "This is Tom Atkins' character driving along the road he later picked Jamie Lee Curtis up on." So it's kind of like even hitting, so you're seeing him driving through the same road that he ends up being with her.
Okay.
That's kind of cool. The name of the coroner, played by Darwin Jostin, Dr. Phibes, is a reference to Dr. Anton Phibes, the character played by Vincent Price in the horror movie The Abominable Dr. Phibes, and its sequel, Dr. Phibes Rises Again.
Wow.
Kind of cool. Adrienne Barbeau and Jamie Lee Curtis, the leads, do not appear together in any scenes whatsoever.
Yeah, they don't.
And when Janet Leigh is standing just outside the church door, there's an arc of fog at the top of the image. This was not intentional, but actual fog on the lens.
Wow.
The quote, "like an albatross around the neck," that can be heard. That's what you were talking about, Noah, that creepy stuff that's playing on the radio, is actually a quote from the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, created by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. So, I mean, that's kind of neat that they, tied in like this old kind of like sea related thing or whatever, and had it so creepy and like tied into that. In the 1990s, John Carpenter mentioned during an interview with Fangoria that he was interested in producing an anthology series based on The Fog. However, the proposed series would at first not have featured any of the characters from Antonio Bay. Instead, the titular fog itself would have been served as a catalyst for other supernatural stories elsewhere. He also implied that as the series progressed, connective ties to his 1980 film would become more apparent. However, that series never materialized, and we got the fucking remake instead. Fuck this. This is why this is the worst timeline.
Oh, man.
Like, I mean, can you imagine like an anthology series like based on The Fog, where it's just the fog itself, and it's like it leads into all these other haunted like communities or towns or whatever that were like different stories, but they all link back somehow to this first movie? That would have been cool as hell.
Yeah.
Despite Tom Welling's cast as Nick Castle, the movie is atrocious. It was, however, produced by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, makers of the original movie. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I wonder what went wrong there.
Well, first of all, I think they both took just a paycheck, Carpenter and Deborah Hill. And I think that the studio kind of moved in there and started calling shots. And I think they both just kind of like, whatever you're going to make, just do it, that sort of thing.
I have never even heard Tom Welling mention this film. Of all the films he's mentioned, I mean, he talks about Cheaper by the Dozen a lot, but damn.
As Stevie calls out the progress of the fog through the town over the radio, she mentions Russellville Road and Small House Road. These are two prominent streets in Bowling Green, Kentucky, where Carpenter spent time growing up.
Oh, well, would you look at that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he went to Western Kentucky University here before he went out to California and got all fancy with his, art films and all that stuff. So
USC will change you.
And actually, I think he mentioned Smith's Grove in Halloween, and that's actually, I've been to Smith's Grove, like it's just outside of Bowling Green, so that's another town that he worked in one of his movies.
That's funny. Bowling Green is a ghetto-ass neighborhood in Sacramento.
The movie's opening prologue was a quote from the final two lines of Edgar Allan Poe's poem, A Dream Within a Dream. It states, "It's all that we see or seem, but a dream within a dream." So it kind of ties into the, kind of the ephemeral nature of the fog and how it, kind of carries all this other stuff. The band mentioned on the radio near the movie's beginning is the Coupe de Villes, which features director John Carpenter. They actually play a song over the closing credits of Big Trouble in Little China, also directed by Carpenter. So he worked his own band into the movie. That's kind of cool.
Big Trouble in Little China was his movie.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. No.
Surprise.
Dude, that's one of my favorite movies.
When you get to looking at Carpenter's movies, like he truly is like one of the best directors and gets no credit for half of them.
Wow.
I mean, he came up with some good ones. The sword that Blake carries is a patterned 1796 light cavalry saber with an iron scabbard, produced between 1796 and 1821. So that's kind of a neat like little tie into the time period that the ghost would have been from.
Yeah.
The name of the old clipper ship was Elizabeth Dane, which was the names of other boats seen in the picture, and the other names of the boats in the movie were Hyperio and the Lady Laura, and partially obscured, but most telling, Halloween. So he named a boat in the movie Halloween.
Ha ha.
Kurt Russell was offered a role in this, but he turned it down, and I guarantee you it was probably Nick Castle.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
And I don't know what this movie would have been like with Kurt Russell, but I like Tom Atkins, don't get me wrong, but Kurt Russell in that role probably would have been pretty damn good.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Oh yeah, he would have been banging Jamie Lee Curtis in that movie.
Portraying Sandy Fidel's actress Nancy Keys, who was also known at the time of building movies, Nancy Loomis, having the same last name as the psychiatrist Sam Loomis, or Donald Pleasance's character. A regular character in the Halloween movies, of which Carpenter directed. So just another tie-in that he, took people's last names and worked them in as characters. And Carpenter said this movie was him doing an homage to the EC comics and their bizarre ghost stories and Grand Guignol. Basically they're just out there and a lot of times bloody, which, we already said he avoided for this because he was trying to get a rating down. Another superstar horror director, George A. Romero, would helm another big release, Creepshow, which was also based on EC Comics. So a lot of our favorite horror directors in the 80s were big-time fans of those comics. And Stephen King was too, and we all know how he is. So while in the film, the fog is supernatural in origin. In reality, it is quite common. California is known for thick ground fog, known as tool fog, that occurs beneath 2,000 feet. This type of fog occurs from late fall to early spring. While visibility varies, it's typically about 600 feet, though it can go down to 10 feet or even 0.
Oh, yeah.
It prevents the sun
here
from penetrating, and temperatures underneath the fog can reach below freezing. That's crazy.
Yeah, down here in the valley, man, the fog comes in thick.
It's so weird. Well, I've sent them video or pictures of the fog out here where it's like you can't see the car in front of you.
Yeah, you can't see the car in front of you.
We just get the weirdest fog too that is very thin and misty, and it just sits. It hovers right over the grass.
The fog?
No. This is a different type of fog.
Okay.
But it's like, why are you even here, fog? It's like, it literally just like maybe an inch or two of this misty ass fog that just hovers over the grass for no fucking reason.
Yeah, it's wild. Like when I was back in the day when I used to work on equipment, we worked up in Colfax. You kind of got to go up the hill.
Oh, God.
So in the morning it's thick fog, and then as soon as you get out of the valley up in the mountains, it's like crystal clear, sunny weather.
Yeah.
And then you turn around and you look, and it's just this layer of thick fog. You can't see nothing down into the valley.
We get some of that around here too, but it's a little bit different in this area because the Smoky Mountains are named for that particular reason, because the fog just sits there for like hours, even into after the sun has risen, and it takes forever for it to burn it away. And it's just because, all the vegetation, all the trees in the area just holds all that moisture. But ours hits around like summertime is whenever it's the worst. And it just kind of sits there and creates like a cloud-like effect, especially in the hills. So that's why they're called Smoky Mountains, because of that.
It got so quiet. Awkward silence.
I thought I was disconnected, to be perfectly honest with you.
We were just looking at each other like... Ooh, hello.
The scene on the dock at Bodega Bay was filmed in a single day. So, like we said, the whole film was in 30 days. So that kind of, really, they were on a top, time budget on this.
Well, Bodega Bay is not very far from Point Reyes either.
Yeah. When Andy sees the wood at the beach, the audience can see Goat Rock Beach in the background. This formation, part of Sonoma Coast State Beach, was prominently seen in the background of the final scene of The Goonies, though shot from the other direction.
Yeah. Are you there? Can you not hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You cut out for a second, though, so I was kind of worried.
Oh, okay.
The movie contains 3 of the most prominent scream queens of cinema: Adrienne Barbeau, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Janet Leigh. By 2020, the restored version of the movie formed part of Avco Embassy's film library owned by Studio Canal. When gasoline is flowing, this hurts so bad. When gasoline is flowing from the gas pump, the sale is $4.34 for 8.3 gallons. This makes gas about 52.3 cents per gallon.
Yeah, and I did see that, and I was like, "Fuck it!" I was like, that's not even 1 gallon of gas in California right now.
I just saw that. I was just like, oh my God, that hurts so much
Okay.
to see how cheap gas was back in the day.
So the average right now is like out here in California is $5.84 or something like that.
No, it's almost back
Yeah.
up to 7.
It's average. This is the average right now, and it really is. So hold on. So that is a $305 tank of gas with inflation.
Oh my God. Yeah, it sucks. I'm hoping that the price goes down eventually, but I don't. It's we know it's not going to for a bit.
Okay.
Things have got to change in other areas, but
Do we know if they like was this just some prop or was that actual gasoline they were pumping?
Back then, it was
I
probably
didn't
gas.
I was thinking
it was probably really gas because it's probably cheaper from just to pump it out.
Yeah.
I mean, at the price.
Fuck it, just let it run. It'll dry out.
2 years later, Hal Holbrook and Adrienne Barbeau would be cast again in Creepshow, where they played husband and wife, like we said. The name of the old antique grandfather's diary found inside the wall of the church was the journal of Father Patrick Malone, 1880. In the last scene where Stevie is on top of the lighthouse and the fog slowly disappears, the crew realized they would not be able to get the fog to roll out, so they had Adrienne Barbeau perform the scene in such a way that the film could be played in reverse. That's a good use of the scene. So basically, it's like, yeah, this fog's just going to stay around for a bit. So why don't you act the opposite, and we'll kind of go from there and just play it backwards whenever the movie plays.
What the fuck?
I mean, you got all those fog machines rolling that much fog out to get it that dense.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to corral it and get it to go away.
Well, not
anytime
only
soon.
that, if she's really like on, I don't know if she was on top of a prop or if she really was on top of Point Reyes, which is fucking scary as it is. That place is known for its fucking fog. If it's not foggy over there, it's awkward. So,
yeah, I assume that they filmed that on like a sound stage, but I don't have that information to know if that's true or not. Extensive reshoots were done at the first screening when director and studio executives decided the movie wasn't scary enough. Additional scenes shot include close-ups of death scenes, specifically stab wounds. The scene with Jamie Lee Curtis and the walking corpse in the morgue, and the finale with Adrienne Barbeau on top of the lighthouse. I normally don't agree with studio execs, but those scenes fucking rock. So, like,
yeah,
I'm
usually
glad they put them in there.
Usually they do the opposite and make it less scary.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, but they punched this one up, and I'm glad that they did it.
Yeah.
Adrienne Barbeau has one scene with her son and a climactic showdown with two of the ghosts. Other than that, all of her scenes were by herself with no direct on-screen interaction with any other character. Yeah, I will give her credit for acting. If she was by herself and having to act, that's pretty hard to do.
Yeah, just talking to people on the phone or, I mean, literally that's where all the interaction came from, and then cutscenes.
So I kind of retract what I said about the acting. I'll give it to Adrienne Barbeau, given the fact she had nobody else to bounce off of in most of those scenes.
I mean, she was one of the better actresses.
In the final scene at the church, a wall behind Andy is a brick inscribed H. Hawks. This is a reference to John Carpenter's favorite director, Howard Hawks. What's your all's rating?
Start with you, babe.
Why me?
I don't know. Just because last time we started with Reverend.
I'd give it a 4.3 out of 5.
Ooh, very specific. Did you want to elaborate?
Yeah, I hearing that they got the R rating already, so I don't know why when they want to go back and reshoot scenes and add blood. You're already there now. The opportunity was there. If they would have went and did that, I would have give it maybe like a 4.5. But like the opportunity was there. You had to do reshoots already. It sounds like. Why wouldn't you just retouch up some of those shots and make them a little bit more dramatic?
Okay. Reverend, you go next.
Fair points.
You guys have to decide whether you thought I liked it or not, because I kept a pretty good poker face, I thought.
Well, I'm going to say that you did, but before we get to that, I rated a 5 out of 5. I think it's one of Carpenter's best movies. I mean, like, The Thing is, well, I'll say this. If I'm comparing it to The Thing, this is definitely like a 4.5. The Thing is like a perfect movie.
Yeah,
but I feel like he's got room for several 5s because he's just that damn good of a director. So this is a 5 for me. Like, it's this. I mean, you could argue the original Halloween, definitely The Thing. I mean, as far as his horror movies goes, I mean, he's got tons. Like, I mean, I love most of his movies, but this one, I just love. I love the ghost vibe that he put into it. I love everything, that he set up with, especially with like minimum budget that he had to get it to go. So
yeah, I have to agree. His budget was fucking. I thought he did really well with it. Okay, so Reverend thinks I like it, babe. What'd you think? I thought of the film.
I know what you thought of the film.
You know what did I think of the film?
You liked it.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I would give this a 3. I was falling
Wow.
asleep. I was falling asleep. It was high on the snooze fest.
So what is that? It's like unconscious?
No, unconscious is the worst. Remember?
No, coma's the worst.
Coma.
Coma's the worst. Yeah.
No, so it was the best because I was dozing off, but I was still awake. I still enjoyed a lot of parts of the film. Again, I mentioned the
Hold
acting.
on. Let's break down your rating system. Your rating system of 5 to you would be a snooze fest. And then the worst would be a coma.
No, this was just on the snooze fest. We're not. The actual rating of this film is a 3 for me.
I know, which would be unconscious.
I guess so. I don't know. I was awake for most of it. And I didn't find it to be scary. I didn't find the kill scenes
Like I
to
said,
be.
a snooze fest.
I said it was a snooze fest, and you told me it was unconscious. So quit changing my rating. Quit interrupting me. It's rude. Thank you.
Don't be rude.
Yeah, don't be fucking rude. Yeah. You guys built this up for me way too much.
It's a good-ass movie.
I'm not saying that it's not a good movie. I think it's a good movie. That's why I gave it a 3.
You wouldn't recognize class if you saw it.
You say that every episode. It wasn't as effective for me. It just wasn't scary, and the kills were not great. I thought they could have been so much better. I would have loved to see blood.
The opportunity was there.
It was. Maybe I'd give it a 3.
I mean, I'll agree with you on that, but I don't need the blood. Like the scene, like I said, where Dick Baxter's like literally getting a knife through the eyes or whatever. Like, I mean, the sound that goes along with it and just my envisioning of what it looks like, I was good with it. I didn't need that.
I do like sounds. Also, can someone please explain to me when the Downs people were out and about during that whatever event that they were at, some kind of campaign or whatever for Janet Leigh, was it to keep them away so that nobody was listening on the radio station so they couldn't save her son? I thought the town was going to get fucking like demolished by these fucking I would have loved to see that.
Technically, it should have, but I think he was trying to keep it down to. He filmed the movie in 30 days. If he would have went that direction, there's no way he could have pulled that off. There would have been too many more shots.
Well, did they have a time restraint to have it filmed in 30 days?
Well, money wise, probably. I mean,
Okay.
they've got to keep these people on retainer. They got to pay them so much every day. So I'm sure that like he planned it out and he's like, okay, we have to have this in the bag by then. And if they'd had any extra scenes or any other characters that had any major like facing roles, they were up the budget, up the time.
I just didn't get. I felt like a lot of time was wasted on that campaign. And there was no sense of urgency. Like, these people weren't hearing what was going on because they were watching. So I'm like, cool.
Okay,
they're
hold
all
on,
going to
whoa,
get
whoa.
fucking killed.
I know, but let's think of the era. So media isn't abundant during this era.
Yes.
So the only media is radio.
Correct.
How many people carried around radios?
No, I know that. So why even have this whole campaign thing happening if they're not going to miss that warning on the radio that something's happening, and then they miss it, and then they fucking get killed? That would have been amazing.
Maybe they did.
They didn't. You didn't see anything.
It doesn't mean they didn't get killed.
Well, it makes it not effective.
No, it does, because it makes your mind do the heavy lifting like it's doing right now.
No, because most of them were fine. Even that fucking Janet Leigh's character made it to the top of the mountain. She was fine. Didn't care about her people.
No, she and her assistant made it there,
That's
but there was
true.
plenty of people that were as insinuated being in their houses at the time and did their doors stand up to the, whenever
Yes.
the actual, I mean.
You don't know. It was
You know,
focusing on the core people of the movie.
Yeah, which is So, anyways,
Hold on. How many wasted shots did you feel like were in this movie?
wasted shots.
I felt the movie was very efficient at telling the story. There wasn't there wasn't a lot of wasted scenes.
That whole town thing was a big waste to me.
No, it was building up how these people were living as
She
a
wasn't
fraud.
even sad about her husband
I know-
dying. Gotta
she-
move on.
Well, she's a politician. There's that.
Yeah, so I'm just
Yeah.
like,
But if you understand that the movie is very efficient at every scene,
okay, it's a 3 for me.
That's fine. I'm not trying to convince you otherwise. I'm trying to make
It sounds like you are.
Anybody listening, I'm trying to make a compelling case why the movie's good.
Okay, and they can determine that on their own if they watch it.
Oh,
And this is my rating. This is my podcast. So I'm telling what Raina would give this movie. The problem with this movie is you guys set it up too much for me. You're like, it's the best fucking movie ever. And I was just like, this is going to be the best fucking movie ever.
This movie held up.
It hella holds up, to quote you.
Yeah,
what
and
you all say.
You know what
really
I probably
does.
need to do is I probably need to watch the 2005 to appreciate this one a little bit better.
Yes.
Here's the thing. I think we're going to be at odds on the next movie that we cover. Not on this podcast, but the very next one. I think we're going to. I think we're going to have like way different opinions on that movie.
Are you talking about the bonus discussion?
No, I'm talking about Sleepy Hollow when we cover it next episode. I think we're going to have drastically different opinions to that movie, but I'm going to leave it at that before we, we'll cover our bonus discussion here in a second.
All righty. I can appreciate that.
So bonus discussion, we're going to cover Garfield Halloween Special, aka Garfield in Disguise, which came out in 1985. Directed by Phil Roman, written by Jim Davis, music by Ed Bogus and Desiree Goyetti. And principal players, we have Lorenzo Music, who plays Garfield, the fat, lazy cat, only interested in eating and sleeping, primarily eating lasagna. And, of course, he eats candy.
Candy.
Already mentioned. Candy. Already mentioned the Real Ghostbusters coverage, so not much to cover Lorenzo Music. But God bless, does he not sound like Bill Murray in some of these scenes?
Yeah. No, I know. When I was watching it, I was like, fucking, why isn't it just Bill Murray? I know we get down to that later on, but I mean,
the scene in particular that I'm thinking of is whenever he first comes back to John dressed as like in the pirate suit.
Yeah.
And just some of the stuff he said, it's like he sounds so much like Bill Murray. I'm like, it's dude, like I mean, there's a reason they cast him in the Real Ghostbusters, and there's a reason also that Bill Murray's like, get that fucker out of there. He sounds too much like me,
Yeah, because Bill Murray's such a fucking diva. But okay, wait. So why did they get Bill Murray to do a later version of Garfield? And not
probably because of the link. Like people were like, "You sound just like," and he's like, "Well, okay, I'll just do the movie."
I mean, like, did he just totally like? Is that a diss to Lorenzo Music? Was he not available?
He probably. I mean, I don't know when Lorenzo Music, if he might be still alive. I don't know. I'm not trying to speak out if he's still alive. I'm not trying to say that he's dead or anything. But I mean, I don't know anything about him past that point. But it's just like I guarantee you that they, knowing that there's always been that thing out there that the two sound alike. Who has the bigger draw in a movie theater?
Yeah,
it's gonna be Murray.
Okay. And then for reference, Lorenzo Music did die in 2001, and the movie Garfield was in 2004. So
okay.
that makes sense.
There's that.
Okay.
But it's almost like the new controversy that's going around about Chris Pratt playing Mario in the new Super Mario Brothers movie. Like they have Martinet, who does the voice for Mario in every other fucking game, who can still. I mean, he's a voice actor.
Yeah.
Why not get him to do the cartoon movie? But who's got a bigger draw at the box office? It's Chris Pratt. So put his name up on the billboard.
Damn.
Spoiler alert, he sounds like fucking Chris Pratt. Like he don't sound like Mario. I mean, the movie looks good otherwise, but it is what it is.
Chris Pratt should have did like his own version of an Italian voice.
I think he's got like a little bit of an edge to it that's got like a Brooklyn sound to it, because you only hear like one thing out of his mouth in the trailer. So I think but you know what he actually sounds like? He sounds like he's doing a Captain Lou Albano impersonation, which is hilarious because anybody from the 80s or grew up in the 80s or, especially late 80s, early 90s knows that the Super Mario Brothers Super Show had Captain Lou on there as Mario. And, he didn't sound nothing like, Martinet, but like, we all accepted it. We all thought it was all right. So
in the trailer is the one thing he said was, "It's a me."
And you can barely hear a little bit of a New York accent, like just a little bit.
That's kind of embarrassing, but okay.
We have Tom Hughes playing John Arbuckle and Binky the Clown. One is much too passive and patient owner of Garfield, and the other is as Bozo the Clown parody, which is frightening and annoying.
Do you think that? Oh my God! Why am I drawing a blank right now? The clown from The Simpsons.
Krusty.
Krusty. Is he just like some
Krusty.
fucking fucked up version of Binky?
Krusty is a fucked up version of a clown.
Yes.
He very well could be a fucked up version of Binky. I mean, like they're pretty close. I mean, we have Greg Berger playing Odie and also the TV announcer.
Oh my God.
Which Odie's the lovable but super dumb dog. We have C. Lindsay Workman playing the old man, the creepy storyteller that was a young cabin boy when the pirates buried their treasure. And we have Desiree Goetti who playing the woman at the door.
Wow.
Whenever she comes to deliver or she's like, talking about how they're cute trick-or-treaters, and then, she barely gives them like a piece of candy, and then Garfield threatens her. He's like, you might be giving us some more candy or you get walking the plank. Synopsis: woken up way too early by an annoying as fuck Binky the Clown. Garfield hears he can get free candy by dressing up. He recruits the help of Odie because, hey, 2 bags means twice the candy, and the two end up in a spooky Halloween adventure with ghost pirates. Before the night is through, Garfield will prove that he isn't a scaredy cat. It's the one thing he's not.
Yeah. Over and over.
All right,
No
discussion.
scaredy cat.
It's the one thing I'm not. I love this thing. I love this fucking. This is. I can't rate this on any kind of legitimate scale because this fucking thing is so much nostalgia for me. This is the thing that I would come home from trick or treating and start like picking through my candy and start eating, and I was watching this because this was always on.
You're preaching to the choir. We dubbed this off the TV with our VHS.
Oh my God.
We figured out when, like, I think around like age 5 and 6 that we could run the cable through that. So we had stolen cable growing up. We would run it through the VCR and then run it to the TV. We figured all this out because parents didn't know any of this stuff. So we figured out you could do it and you could dub it. And then we found another VCR. We used to dub everything that when we rented movies. So anything that came on. We dubbed this. We dubbed the Clay Animation Christmas special. Like everything that came on that we liked, we dubbed it onto a VHS tape, and we recorded in EP mode. So you had like 8 hours of recording. So we had like tons and tons of stuff.
Oh my God.
Yeah, those were the days. The big, like I still have some VHSs somewhere that have like Nicktoon-a-thons on there that are the EP like 8 hours and all that stuff.
The kids don't know because they find it so inconvenient when Netflix removes something from its library.
Yeah.
And they're just like, ugh, where am I going to find this?
That was the early days where you could just copyright anything immediately. Boom. Put some tape over the front of the VHS on that little square, and then you can go. Doesn't matter what it is. I remember we go because we were like broke kids dumpster diving all the time. And anytime we found old VHS tapes inside the dumpster, it was like a score. It's like, boom.
Yeah, because you could easily record over top of those, like, no issue.
And that's what we would do. Like, we used to dub everything over it. It's just like, boom, library.
Oh, my
Yeah,
God.
a lot of people didn't know you could actually do that even, like, with VHS tapes that you bought, like, that were from, like, studios and stuff. As long as you did, like you said, you taped over the one portion on it, you could record over them, too.
Yep. Yeah, you get about a good 4 times of recording over it before the video quality starts taking a dive.
What were you going to say, Urana?
I was only able to see this when it was on TV. So when I caught it. And I was lucky to catch it prior to, this was not long after. God, this was like a year after I got diabetes. And Halloween was a very rough time the first few years because my parents just didn't want to even tempt me. So they wouldn't let me do anything Halloween related.
Oh, it sucks.
Yes. So it was for me to not get hurt by seeing the kids getting candy. And I had even promised them, I was like, please, I just want to get dressed up and go out. Like, can we please just, and I'll dump the candy. I don't care because I didn't. It would make me sick back then. We didn't have the technology we have. So you know, they were busy trying to find things for me to do. So I wasn't even able to like sit in front of the TV or anything. I don't know. It was like they were trying to distract me from the fact that it was Halloween. And so like maybe at my grandma's house, I saw this or something like that. So I remember, but it was only a handful of times. It wasn't something I got to see on repeat.
I always remember watching this, and then it was followed by the Disney Halloween treat that they used to do.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck Disney for not putting that on Disney Plus. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got like snippets of the different things that made it up, but it's not the whole special that used to be on. But you know, you had the whole episode where, you know, Donald's like nephews, Huey and Louie, came to him and they were trick or treating, and he was being a bastard, and so the witch has to like, you know, play
Witch
trick on him.
Hazel.
Yeah. And then, you know, you had that one scene from Fantasia where the demon in the mountain, you know, was like, you know, summoning the spirits and all that stuff. And like even the spooky skeletons and the, you know, the merry melodies that were like dancing. And it was that and this is the two things I remember watching like consistently year after year. Like it was like my favorite thing. Like I'd get to go and enjoy Halloween, like all the, you know, seeing the different decorations, you know, having people, because back in the day, like people would actually dress up and be part of the decorations. And you'd be like, is that a scarecrow sitting there? Is that like a, you know, and then they'd fucking scare the shit out of you because of course they put the bowl over there on the other side and you had to cross, you know, in front of it.
Yeah.
You couldn't get away with that shit now. If you tried that, like you'd have Karens all over you. There's no way that would work. But it was a fun time, and this movie and this special is just like, it's got so much nostalgia. Like it just takes me back to that time, and I love it. Like every bit of it.
We do have that Disney Halloween special, so the kids watch that every year.
No, we don't. Our computer's broken. I gotta
build
I gotta build a new computer.
This will be the year they are not watching it.
You know, I found that on YouTube like a few years back, and I was having so much fun watching that. Like I was like, oh shit, I can watch it again. And then fuck Disney, they did it again.
Yeah.
It was like, I went back the next year and it was like copyright, you know, stricken, removed. You know, I was like, if you're not going to put it on Disney Plus, let somebody else post it on, you know, YouTube or something.
Yeah, quit being a little bitch, Disney.
Visuals. I love the fact that this movie completely changes its this cartoon completely changes its art style when you get to the spooky stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like it complete, like the old man and the ghosts themselves are completely animated in a different style and a different, like in a way than what Garfield and Odie are like whenever they're interacting with them.
I have to be honest with you. I didn't quite even notice that until now that you're saying it.
Yeah, it's. I mean, because they even move differently. Like they're more fluid than like Odie and them are. Like,
yeah,
you know, they're more static. They don't, you know.
Yeah, the detail of the old man is really what sells it.
I like the lighting, like on his face, or how they light him up, just to give it that spooky, campy feel.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The detail, the level of detail that goes into that character is insane. Especially for
all the warts on his face, like the wrinkles, like they stand out so much because they're so detailed versus like, you know, the regular cartoon that Garfield, like the style that Jim Davis had.
Yeah, just like looking at John, then look at that character. You get to see the drastic dichotomy difference. And
I love this because, I mean, this gets into the story part of it, and I'm just going to mix all this stuff together. I love the fact that it's actually got a threat to it. That's the one thing that I argued, if you remember, on Hocus Pocus 2, it's like they removed all of the threat from the Sandersons through that. It's like, oh, we're going to throw out, you know. This is a cartoon. This should have been like, you know, all that schmaltzy, like, you know, your main protagonists are never in danger, blah, blah, blah shit. But when Garfield gets out and him and Odie are first out trick-or-treating and the Scaredy Cat song comes on, he's legit like picking up like their Halloween costumes and there's fucking monsters underneath them. Like that was like mind-blowing for the time. It's like you added some threat to this thing.
That's so funny.
And that's not even counting the fact that whenever they get to the actual haunted house, like, I mean, those ghost pirates are legit trying to kill them. Like, I mean, you know, of course they don't. I mean, you know, it's because it's kids show, but they're trying. I mean, you know, it's not like they're just like, ooh, well, we're going to leave you alone because you're a cute cat. No, they're going to fucking kill them for being there.
Well, way to go, Reverend. Now I have to put this down as a spoiler review.
We're just going, the people need to see this anyways.
Yeah.
What do you all think about that stuff? Like, I love the fact that they went there with it. Like, I mean, it was at a time when a lot of things were just so like sugary sweet if they were for kids. Like, they refused to like have any kind of thing like that in it.
I mean, as a kid watching this, it was shocking to me seeing like, the feet under the ghost costume, that was some kind of fucking Bigfoot or whatever.
Yeah.
The scary ass skeleton ghost face, and feeling like I was watching a different cartoon when you see, the old man telling the story, but it was almost a giddy feeling for me. It was like, oh my God, I get to watch something scary. My parents don't know. Oh God, don't let them know I'm watching this, because I was more sheltered. So it was kind of exciting for me.
What'd you think, Noah?
I have a totally different perspective than my wife. I liked it because it was just a Garfield cartoon. Like, to me, it wasn't. I was already watching like over the top horror movies at this point.
Yeah, so it was nothing to you.
To me, I just like Garfield, and I liked the story. It was.
I used to watch the Garfield show. I used to watch the Garfield cartoons that were on Fox in the morning, but I didn't consider, for whatever reason, myself a huge Garfield fan.
No, but I'm saying, to like, your perspective is like it was something that you weren't really allowed to engage in. But to me, it was, I think more than anything, our parents were probably happy we were watching this instead of watching everything else we were watching.
I was not, I mean, I'm not saying that I wasn't into horror in general, like at the time that I was watching this, but it wasn't like the most I'd ever seen was literally like the old Universal Frankenstein. That was like, and that actually scared me as a kid. So, like, I mean, I wasn't, jaded to any of this stuff yet. Like, it was going to be about probably 4 or 5 years later whenever Return of the Living Dead just fucking like ripped that bandage off. But like, this was, you're talking like 8, 9 years old, whatever, like whenever I was seeing this, maybe, or somewhere around that time period like this. I mean, like I that's why I thought it was neat that they actually had the spookier stuff in it.
Yeah. I don't know. It was just that kind of excitement for me. So
to me, I just like it because it's the nostalgia side of it. Like it's a good cartoon. It holds up to this day. You can watch it over and over. It's a staple for like any type of holiday season. Just like the Donald Duck stuff is, and all those.
Oh yeah, it just brings, I don't know, it brings that warmth, of the spirit of the season, if you will. I will say, having never seen The Fog, it is fucking funny watching this cartoon now, like you guys said, and putting the two together. And it's like, oh my God, this is hilarious. And if you Google it, by the way, which I did, not a lot of people make comparison of the two at all.
I just think it's funny because even when the ghost pirates are moving in, they've got that glowing effect.
Yeah.
The misty glowing effect. I mean, it's like, it's almost ridiculous how close, it kind of is to The Fog in that way.
Yes. I don't know. It's
and the
pretty
whole
funny.
Story,
well,
it's
the story
100 years later, and
What year did The Fog come out?
1980. 80. Yes.
Yeah.
And what year did that Garfield cartoon come out?
85.
Oh, 85.
Oh yeah, so they had time to work on that.
It's so funny.
Yeah, I don't know why the comparison doesn't come up more, because there is a lot of stuff that kind of, clicks that way.
I had to go deep on Google to find one article where the person not only makes reference to it, but there's photographic like proof. He's like, okay, here, check this photo out, look at this, look at that. Basically the ghost, like you're saying. The old man, he compares the two old men telling the story. It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I'm curious how many people nowadays, because we have a lot of these old cartoons that anytime I ran across one, I rat holed it and put it on our server. So like we have a litany of these old ones that I grew up watching, and my kids have got to watch them since they were kids growing up through the last couple of years. So I'm just curious how many other people are kind of pulling these things out of the history box.
I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't. Because these are, I could see somebody saying, oh, well, whatever. And some people nowadays are like, oh, this is too scary for kids, which whatever. I get so sick of that.
Too scary for kids?
There are parents that think that movies like this are too scary for their youngins, and they're going to have to wait before they can see them.
Who?
they're out there, dude. Like, it's ridiculous. It really is.
People
mean,
must think I'm a fucked up person when I was like, yeah, I've been watching horror movies with my kids since there was like 5.
It was earlier. I think it was
Like
4 or 5.
over the top horror movies.
Little Lisafina, it was 4, I believe.
I mean, I could definitely see this being introduced to a kid like when they're 5 or 6, like no problems. Like this is, I mean,
5 or 6. This is a young one for kids. I think honestly they could start watching it as soon as they're watching cartoons.
I'm just saying, even if you're being overly cautious.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know, 5 or 6, like it's not. You know, there's no reason not to. But you know, like I've seen so many people, and maybe it's because I, you know, live in the Bible Belt or whatever, and like, you know, anything that's got like, you know, whatever in it that's like, oh, you're going to burn in hell because you're showing them like these undead creatures or whatever. I like they tried, like I heard people when Harry Potter, I mean, this is the kind of place that we're in that like when Harry Potter first came out and got famous, like there was literally like a store manager or assistant store manager at a place that I worked at, and he came over and we were playing it on the TV just because we were supposed to have cable hooked up to it or satellite, you know, and it wasn't working, and so we had to have something, you know, for the patients to watch while they were coming in to get their medicine. And he came over and he literally told us, because we was playing Harry Potter, he's like, you know, that's witchcraft, right? You know that you're going to burn in hell for showing that. And I'm like, what time period are you fucking from? Is what I wanted to tell the asshole. I'm
the
like,
1700s is calling you. Yeah, like what are we doing, dude?
But I'm telling you, that's the kind of shit that we're doing. Like, I have a church that's literally across the road from me, and it doesn't matter how much I decorate my house. It doesn't. I mean, I'm right in the middle of town. You'd think I get a ton of trick or treaters. No, they carry a trunk or treat over there, and that is the end all be all. Whenever they get to that church, that's where it stops. Like I mean, that's where Halloween begins and ends, because that's how it's done around here.
That is crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, we were worried because for a while, trick or treating was kind of dying out here. And it thankfully COVID happened, because it took off for COVID for whatever reason. It was like, fuck you, I'm bringing my kids.
Yeah.
It was wild in our neighborhood, and it took off, and it has been great since. Obviously, it's only been 1 year, one Halloween since, but and then we have neighbors down the street that really fucking go off with their house. Literally.
Look, I'm just thinking the whole idea of trick or treating is get as much candy as you have. So any light that's on, that's a potential candy.
Exactly.
Go get it.
We're, like I said, we're literally across the street, cross corner from this place, had the lights on, had decorations, everything. Nobody. Like, they went there and they're like, yeah, well, we got enough here. We don't have to go anywhere else.
That's insane. I don't know. I mean, even fucking Disneyland. It was funny when we went with the kids when they were a little bit younger. It was on Halloween, and they give you these teeny tiny little bags, okay? And I was laughing when we first got these bags.
There's
So
candy
I'm like,
everywhere at
yes,
Disneyland.
but like these bags, they expand. So we started off with a bag that looked like a Ziploc, and we left with one that looked like a gallon Ziploc. It was insane, and they were like, okay, no, really, it's enough candy, because we had like our backpacks full at this point and everything. Like, no, and they shove their hand in there, which expands the bag. The bag doesn't rip. I don't know. Apparently, it's indestructible. It's plastic, by the way. It looks like those party bags you get at birthday parties when you're passing out shit.
So you can't have plastic straws, but you can't have plastic bags.
Correct.
And plastic covered candy.
Oh my God. But yeah,
How does that work?
Trick or treating, man. Garfield really, he really does bring the importance of trick or treating in this movie.
You know what? Is trick or treating anymore? Trick or treating is a pinnacle of a capitalist society, in my opinion, because it all is predicated. You want candy? Put some effort in.
Yeah.
Go out there,
Yeah.
grind it. That's the whole idea, is going out and grinding trick-or-treating for 4 hours to get the biggest yield you can.
And we do.
Yeah, not just driving to a church parking lot and then, having a few, cars opened up and just grabbing, handfuls out of some buckets.
You get together with your friends and you go on an adventure and you just try to find as much as you can.
And whatever you can carry, whatever you bring home, you can keep.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, because I think that's the reason I love this so much. This captures the essence of what trick-or-treating is, like, perfectly, in the sense that it's dark out when they're going. They're going on an adventure, like they're seeing all this like spooky stuff on the way, and then like just the scenery, especially at night, whenever all the lights are shutting down, and he's like, I'm not ready to go yet. There's lights across the, the river, and like just that whole creepy vibe of it being so dark out, because I mean, that's what it's like here whenever it, gets around that time of year. It's like, you start at like 6 or 7. Well, it's dark by like 7:30. So you're still trick-or-treating in like darkness, like it just has that vibe to it.
What's funny is this happens every year. But when we shut it down, we shut it down. We turn off all the lights. We don't leave any kind of inkling that, hey, you can come up and there's any candy. But we will still get fucking hood rats.
Oh, yeah. Like 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah. Just knock and pissed that we're not answering the door. Like, what the fuck are you doing? I don't
that
mind.
Shit doesn't happen.
I love trick-or-treaters. Don't get me wrong. But come on. My house is dark as fuck now.
Yeah.
Go home.
I always tell my kids all the time, like, you can get as much candy as you want. You have to carry it.
Yeah.
Nobody else is carrying it.
Oh, yeah.
If you can't carry your candy, we'll start taking it out of your bag and eating it for you.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I'll carry it. I got this. I can carry it.
What do y'all think about the music in this? I know it's like kiddie, but like there's a couple of songs in this that
I like the
nostalgia
music.
I just love.
Yeah.
It's good. It just goes with the whole fucking vibe of the whole cartoon.
I know, scared cat.
And then there's the thing that I love is the yo ho ho
Oh, yeah.
ho over the river, like that whole thing. Like it just kind of plays into it.
Gives it a sense of adventure.
Yeah, the only one that I'm kind of iffy on, but I like the scenes that go along with it. And speaking of another, animation that they use is a scene where, what can I be? Do 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 do. Like there's so many things to be, and like when he says that he dresses up like the big scary black cat or whatever, like that's a totally different animation style.
Yes.
Because it's he's a way different cat whenever they draw him for that, but. I don't know. That song's a little on the cheesier side when I watch it, but even then I kind of enjoy it just because it, it plays into the whole thing of the fun of like trick or treating. It's like you're, picking out the, actual costume and all that goes along with it.
Well, here's the thing about that song is the visuals were good. I mean, it brought home everything that was being sung about was happening in front of your very eyes. I think if it hadn't been done as well, that song would have been really annoying.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Acting, I mean, the voice actors do a great job. I mean, for the show, I mean, they emote. I mean, like Binky, like God, so loud and so annoying, but that's the way the character's supposed to be. I love the scenes where Garfield and Odie like start freaking out and they just start screaming and like running in circles. Like I don't know, just something about that just cracks me up every time I watch it. Especially the scenes where they, it's the Scaredy Cat song or whatever. They just, run away and then they come back and start singing again. I don't know if you caught this. I've always heard this, like personally, and my wife mentioned it one time we watched it together. There's a scene where Garfield, like, is like they get caught. Odie and him get caught by the ghost because Odie sneezes. And I want to say that like it sounds like Lorenzo music, but it sounds like whenever they're getting ready to leave, it sounds like Garfield says, "Oh fuck it," and like they like bolt out of there. Like did you all hear that? Like it cracks me up every time I hear it. I know he's saying something else, or assuming he is, but like it just says like, "Oh fuck it," did they get out of there?
I need to watch it again because I did not catch that, but now I'm curious.
It's just barely in there, but I watch this thing every year. It's one of my Halloween like go-tos. So that's, I've seen it quite a bit. It was one of the first things whenever I found it on like a DVD or whatever. I was like, I'm buying this. I don't care how much it is.
You're going home with me.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say about it before we get in a small amount of trivia for this one and then wrap it up?
Well, no, I'll save this for the end, but it's just I don't know. Let's save it for the end. Let's get into trivia and then we'll give our final thoughts.
Okay. So the boat that Odie and Garfield used to get to the haunted house is named Carolyn, which is a reference to Garfield creator Jim Davis's first wife.
Aww.
This is the first Garfield TV special to be based on original content. The previous TV specials borrowed plot elements and jokes from the comic. While Garfield is
wait.
channels.
Based on this is the first Garfield TV special to be based on original content. Yeah, that somebody else created, named John Carpenter.
Well, true, touche. When Garfield is flipping TV channels trying to find Binky the Clown in the opening scene, one of the channels features Orson Pig from U.S. Acres for a brief second. I always kind of like those two, if you've ever seen that. Whenever it was like Garfield and Friends later on in the 90s, it works in like the people or all the animals that are on the farm.
I didn't know. I did not make that reference.
Castle Thunder sound effect is heard multiple times throughout and that's just that, like that echoey, like thunder sound or whatever. It's heard multiple times throughout the scene where the old man tells Garfield and Odie about the pirates burying their treasure. And the comic adaptation includes extra scenes where Garfield steals a ring from the pirate's treasure, and he and Odie are confronted by the ghost pirates after they get home. Garfield then returns the ring, and the pirates vanish. So in the comic, the pirates actually follow him all the way home to get that ring back because Garfield took it.
That's a little scary. I don't like it.
Yeah. All right, ratings.
Oh,
you want to go first on this one?
I'll go first on this one since I was the last one. I think that my excitement has given it away from me that I did like this. I think that, obviously there were no kills in this or anything like that, but I don't know. The nostalgia is enough for me, and the excitement of Halloween that a chunk of that was missing from my childhood at no fault of my parents. They were really young. They were just trying to help something that was very life-threatening, so they didn't want to tempt me, But also what they took away from me during the spooky season was the spook factor. They really did kind of protect me from that as well for a while. And then my mom introduced me to the Night of the Living Dead, and we know how that went. But long story short, this is a 5 for me. It just has everything that encapsulates not just trick-or-treating, but Halloween. The excitement for me, the trick-or-treating, the picking out your costume. It's always a fucking hard decision. I'm fucking 40, and I want to be something every year still.
Yeah, it really does a good job of all those things.
Yeah, I love it.
5 out of 5 for me. Nostalgia, kicks it in there. Like I said, it's a go-to for me. I mean, it just takes me back to, simpler times, happier times that were like coming back from trick-or-treating back in the day whenever it actually felt scary to be out trick-or-treating, but scary in a safe way.
Yeah.
This was prior to, all the meth that like hit this area real bad, and all that stuff. So, when you went to but there was a little bit of threat there because, like I said, there was always somebody trying to play a prank on, that was giving the candy out. So that.
Which is still amazing.
But yeah, I love it. Now, I would say maybe for modern audiences, I could see, I don't know, knocking it down a little bit. I mean, I don't personally see that, but I'm going to say the nostalgia also factors in there. But I would still rate it 4 out of 5 if you are trying to show it to your kids. And I fully agree with you. You could show it down like even, younger than that. But I mean, if you're going to be ultra conservative at 5, at least. And unlike Hocus Pocus 2, like I said, again, the protagonists actually have a threat in this. Like they're scared, and actually, because that's the worst thing about Hocus Pocus 2. Like the main characters don't even care that the Sandersons are after them.
Yeah,
it's like,
they're unfazed by it. They're just like, how are we gonna outsmart them?
Yeah, but in this, like Garfield and Odie are scared as shit, even though he's not a scaredy cat. he actually, he's scared a lot. So.
He has to convince himself that he's not as scared as he actually is.
Yeah, he's pumping himself up, especially in front of Odie. He can't look bad in front of Odie. I mean, that's just him. And I'm going to give something out there like that I love about this. I love at the end of it where Garfield, for the first time that I ever remember seeing, actually has a change of heart, and he actually gives Odie the candy to acknowledge the fact that Odie did fucking save his life, several times, over the course of the night, especially in the scene where he keeps him from drowning or whatever.
I've seen that before in some Garfield shows. Maybe every now and then Garfield does. It's not every time. But I did want to say that my kids who have been watching horror from a very, very, very young age, bad parent admission, I've said that many times here on this podcast, they do love this. So look just because you let your kids watch horror at a young age doesn't ruin, authentic Halloween specials, cartoons, whatever you want to call them, shows for kids. They still love it, and they both love this. I know that they do. So there's that.
That's awesome. All right, Noah, what's your rating?
I made him disappear. He
Okay.
Actually, funny story. He really wants to make tamales, so he's like, I have to go get these started. I'm like, okay, well, we'll see you later.
Okay.
The white man
do you
is
think
making tamales.
What do you think his rating is, though?
I'm thinking he's going to give this a 5 out of 5. I mean, as thrilled and excited as both of you were, we're super giddy over this, especially for me to make the connection of The Fog and this together, which, again, can I just say, I cannot believe nobody puts these two together. It's identical. How many people are out there that have not seen this special? Or The Fog?
Well, I think it's a combination of the people who've seen the special, haven't seen The Fog, or vice versa. Like,
Yeah.
if they saw them, especially if they watched them back to back, like I did for this, it's like, okay, clearly, there was some influence there, one way or the other.
I almost wish that I had just been told to watch The Fog and we had not made the Garfield connection, because I would have watched The Fog and been like, wait a second. This is just like that one show. I can't quite put my finger on it. And it would have, of course, been the Garfield Halloween special. I would have been like, oh my God. I don't know. But you're right, because I had seen this, but I had not seen The Fog. So.
Yeah, and I was that way for years. Like, I only saw The Fog in, like, well, I want to say the last 3 or 4 years. Like, that's the first time I'd seen it. And, like, so that's why when I watched it, I was like, wait a minute. Like, the 100 years thing, I was like, that is so close to Garfield. And I watched them again, I was like, yeah, they had to have been.
100%. They got the ghost pirates. They got the glow. They got kind of the fog. They got the fucking captain.
Yeah, like all of it. I mean, and they're even searching for gold. Like, it's
Yeah.
Like, it's in a different form, obviously, but they're still searching for gold.
That's so funny.
I mean, that's it for me. I don't know. Do you have anything else? Any plugs that we need to throw in there before we head on out of here?
No, not at the moment. Just we're still working really hard on the episodes. I mean, this will already be out by the time our reviews of Bly Manor and The Turning is out. But we have a lot that's out right now. We recently reviewed the, God, why can't I think of it right now? Barbarian film. All spoiler reviews, as well as Munsters and Hocus Pocus 2.
Yes.
So go take a listen. We are trying to get more video up. I know people are liking the video, which is awesome. But until we can get that perfected, again, remember, folks, we do this for free. We are not paid.
In our spare time.
In our spare time. Yes, we have jobs.
Which I think is even worse than the cost. Like, I think I could probably handle a little bit of a cost, but that time is hard to, like, come up with.
The time is more expensive and more valuable than what it costs for us to put these together. There's that, because we love doing it. So working on it. We'll try to get more video out. Give us some thumbs up if you like what we're putting out there, and talk to us on social media, man. We're down for some conversation for sure.
And with that, peace be with you.
And with your spirit.